Something has happened. Everybody that says nothing ever happens, well, today is a bad day for you. 3 ringleaders of the anti-ICE mob who stormed a church in Minneapolis over the weekend have been arrested. AG Pam Bondi announced today on Twitter. Now, there's a lot of people that are upset that Don Lemon was not arrested, but we're going to get into why that happened and the conditions surrounding that. There's also a big lie going around. Democrats are lying about ICE and getting a 5-year-old in custody and stuff, so we're going to go over that and show you why this is all BS. The murder rate has dropped precipitously in 2025, so we're going to talk about that. And kids can't read, so we'll tell you why. But first, we've got a great sponsor for you.
It is Beam Dream. My friends, head over to shopbeam.com/Timcast and pick up your nighttime sleep aid to help you sleep better. Beam Dream's amazing. It's got L-theanine, it's got reishi, it's got melatonin, magnesium. I drink it every single night. Not a joke. Even I got Phil drinking it now.
It's great.
It's great. We got the little packet ones because we're out of the studio. But I drink it every night before bed. A delicious cup of hot cocoa. Cinnamon cocoa, it's my favorite. I don't know, I bounce between that and the brownie batter. And only 15 calories, no added sugar. Drink it, make a hot cup of cocoa right for the show every night, and I sleep beautifully. And y'all know I got a new baby who's always crying, and somehow I make it through because I've got a great wife. And, you know, but Beam Dream helps, and I do recommend it. So check out shopbeam.com/TimPool is the link you can use, and you get to 35% off. You can click the link in the description below. Shout out to Beam Dream for sponsoring the show.
All right, so smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know, all your friends, all the people you don't like. Share the show with them. Let them know to watch Timcast IRL. Joining us tonight to talk about all of the stuff that I mentioned earlier is Bobby Sauce.
Thank you for having me.
Who are you? What do you do?
Bobby Sauce, political comedian, video maker, on all the socials at Take Naps.
I love that name. That's a great name, Take Naps. Ian's here.
Taking naps. I have a long day today. Hey, everybody. Ian Crossland in the house, and I would like you to go to graphene.movie. If you haven't been over there yet, check out graphene.movie. Check out the trailer for this new documentary I'm building. It's awesome. I went down to Rice University. Massive nanotechnology uncovered. Graphene.movie. Check it out. Also, this man to my right.
What is going on, Patriots? Tate Brown here, holding it down. Yeah, I never noticed how blue your eyes are. That really just like hit me.
Yeah, I was
like
squeezing. I was putting pressure on them before we went live. I wonder if that has to do with it.
I hear if you macrodose like aspirin as well. This is not a health recommendation for anyone at home, but it will make your eyes much bluer.
For a while, I was drinking platinum. They started to turn platinum.
Okay, that's probably what it is then. But
all right.
Yeah.
Well, from the New York Post, we're going to jump right into it. 3 ringleaders of anti-ICE mob who stormed a church, including school board member arrested, AG Pam Bondi announces. A BLM leader who served on a school board, a woke TikToker, and a third alleged ringleader of an anti-ICE mob who stormed a Minnesota church on Sunday. Service has been arrested, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced Thursday. We have arrested Nakima Levy-Armstrong, who allegedly played a key role in organizing the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. AG Bondi said, "Listen loud and clear. We do not tolerate attacks on places of worship. Armstrong allegedly led the Rosh's group, including Don Lemon, from the Radical Justice Network to storm the church and call out resident pastor David Eastwood, accusing him of moonlighting as the acting field office director for ICE in Minnesota. A picture of Armstrong being led away in handcuffs was shared by the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on X Thursday morning. I think that this is evidence that there is actual things happening at the DOJ. People love to say nothing ever happens. They're not doing this. And I understand the impulse because people wanted to see like Trump come in and just start swinging the hammer and start arresting everybody that they didn't like. That was never realistic in my opinion. The DOJ actually has to build cases. People would love to point at January 6th and say, well, January 6th, they had arrests 2 days later. They had arrests 3 days later, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this happened over the weekend. Monday was a holiday. Today's Thursday. They've got arrests. What do you guys think about that?
It does prove that they can arrest people, which is nice. Because for a while there, I kind of thought that they kind of couldn't. But I do wish that there was arrests of people that were more significant to the greater scheme of things, like as we would coin the deep state arrest. I think those would be a little bit more impactful. But I'm certainly glad to see that they can arrest people. That is a good thing.
I was happy to see that. Happy. I mean, I just think justice was served in that they targeted the person that was funding and organizing it, and they Well, you know, we're out to see if they're going to keep arresting every person that was there, and if they're going to, how harsh it's going to be. But the organizer, I think you actually have this girl pulled up. We'll talk about her.
So the reason I bring this up is because Nikema Levy Armstrong, she is an activist, right? She has been around the BLM, the left. You know, she's a lawyer. She's been involved in this kind of basically propaganda for, you know, at least since 2015. She was in Ferguson. And now at this point, she's made a career of it. She's began as an associate law professor at the University of St. Thomas. She attained tenure at a university, was granted a full professorship. Excuse me. She's worked for the NAACP for law students interested in working with underserved communities. So she's steeped in this. She's the one that organized this. And I think that it's more important, and there's people that are going to be upset about this, it's more important that they arrested her than Don Lemon. Now, before you start throwing eggs, Don Lemon is a personality that people see on the news. They hear him all the time. They don't like the things they say, so they've got this emotional reaction to Don Lemon. This person is actually an organizer. She does the work, as they would say. She's out there consistently trying to not just raise funds and stuff, but she's organizing these protests, which, in my opinion, they're not legal protests at all, right? Going into a church is clearly illegal. Obviously, she's arrested for it. Getting Don Lemon would have been satisfying emotionally, but this is something that will actually affect the network on the ground.
They're also framing it as a riot. Like, they might think they were protesting, but I guess because of the unruly nature of the experience, the DOJ, or at least Harmeet Dillon, I think, was referring to it as a riot. Sorry, Tate, you were about to...
No, yeah, I mean, I agree. This is the first person you obviously want to bring in front of a judge. Again, to Phil's point, because she has experience organizing, she has experience in these activist networks. It's a safe bet that a lot of these Minneapolis area activist networks probably depend on her experience, her leadership, these sorts of things. But I mean, to a lot of people in the audience point, like we want to see a full blown crackdown from the DOJ. I can be a little patient, you know, to make sure they get these cases down right, to make sure they have this all buttoned up when they do, again, start prosecuting. But I do think Don Lemon needs to be held accountable here. I think, again, to Bobby's point, the lack of high-profile arrests is a little frustrating to people, because we did see under the Biden administration that, again, the DOJ is capable of going after the top dogs when they want to. I have a lot of grace for the Trump administration, the DOJ, because, again, it's hard to root out all of these deep state apparatchiks that are, that make up the DOJ. But at a certain point, I think Don Lemon really would send a massive message to the left, and that should be. I know it probably is a big focus for the DOJ, but they really need to get that across the finish line.
Today I was thinking that about it, and like maybe that it would be a bad message to send. It would send a message if you arrested Don Lemon, but like if you really want to screw it in, you go after the little guy that can't defend themselves. I know it's a horrible thing to say, because that's what they did with January 6th. The people that don't have the money to afford the defense funds, the people that were there kind of like just came along for the ride, you crush them. And that's not necessarily the ethical thing to do, but that's if you really want to, because they're nobodies. The news won't make a big deal out of John Doe number 7, but Don Lemon is going to get constant headlines as long as he's in jail every day. It'll be about Don Lemon, be the pariah, you know?
So to that point, if they broke the law, I think they should arrest them. It doesn't matter whether they're the big guy or the little guy. To the point of Don Lemon, right, from the Post-Millennial. The DOJ attempts to charge Don Lemon over storming St. Paul Church with an anti-IS group. The magistrate declines to sign the complaint. So the DOJ actually put the effort in to get Don Lemon, but it seems that the magistrate wouldn't sign the paperwork. Now, I've heard conflicting reports that this particular magistrate was a guy that had signed a bunch of the January 6th stuff. Mm-hmm. But because there's conflicting reports, I don't want to talk about the guy's name and stuff. But from the Post-Millennial, they say, a federal magistrate judge in Minnesota has reportedly refused to sign a complaint from the Department of Justice charging former CNN host Don Lemon in connection with the storming of a St. Paul church. Lemon was seen embedded with the anti-IS agitators, kissing one of the organizers on the cheek and handing out coffee. A source familiar with the matter told CBS News that the Attorney General is enraged at the magistrate's decision. This comes after two women, organizer Nikema Levy Armstrong and St. Paul School Board member Chantilly Louise Allen have been charged with violations of the FACE Act for their roles in the incident. A separate source told the outlet that the Department of Justice could still find other avenues through which to charge Don Lemon. Now, I do think that they're going to end up charging him. I think that they're going to, because I think that they want that scalp. I think that they really do want to have that high profile person, but I also think that like they have to get it past judges, and there are so many activist judges that are all across the United States.
It makes me wonder, on January 6th, I remember there was a lot of people that got arrested that were doing journalism in the Capitol. But I remember there was this one clip where it showed this angle that was kind of behind the guards of the guys coming up the stairs. And I don't think that guy was ever charged for anything, and he was inside the Capitol. So I would wonder if this is a similar type of thing where they're kind of protecting their own. But if the same exact thing happened on the right, which I think you guys were talking about yesterday, would they just come after them? And if that is the case, then you have to go after Don Lemon.
So, yeah, I mean, the nice thing is the DOJ will still have options here. The federal magistrate not signing off doesn't eliminate. They can still bring this before. They could assemble a grand jury to seek a charge. So it's not the end of the world, but I think it's in this post-millennial article, you might have read already, is that the AG was furious with the federal magistrate, as she should be, because again, I mean, the fact that they can pop all these other people on FACE Act charges, but they can't get Don Lemon just tells you that there is some sway over this magistrate. The problem with the grand jury is it's going to be assembled in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So it would be a little tricky, but the DOJ, again, I'm not necessarily like a panic in here, but the Biden administration did figure this out quite often. So,
but I think part of the reason why the Biden administration figured it out is because they already had judges in place that would do this. The Trump administration has not been able to really fill out, the judiciary the way that the Obama administration and the Biden administration did.
Judges are getting hung up all the time, and it's because Republicans are weak and they are still sticking with this antiquated blue slips system, which is just like hamstring us. And it's a completely optional system. It's not a law anywhere. Like, we just voluntarily allow Democrat senators to block our judge appointments. But I mean, to my point, like with the DOJ, again, they have other options. So this isn't necessarily saying like, well, the Biden administration did it, so you should do the exact same thing. It's just to say like, don't give up, don't blackpill, like get creative if you're in the DOJ. And again, I'm preaching to the choir if anybody's watching that's within the DOJ. But you can't let this Don Lemon thing go. I really think it's going to be red meat for the base. And right now, it does seem like morale. This year we've started off hot, but before that we needed some victories, and I think this is a victory you could add to the pile in 2026. We've seen a few already. So it just has to happen.
So Harmeet Dillon was tweeting about this. But the post-millennial went on. Civil Rights Division Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon wrote in response to Lemon, claiming he was at the church in a journalistic capacity. She says, "No one has the right to protest by trespassing into a private house, especially a house of God Almighty. Freedom of the press does not protect journalists nor anyone else when they are actively committing crimes." And that's something that's worth noting. The idea that Don Lemon wants you to internalize and wants you to really believe is that he was just there covering. But like they said earlier in the post-millennial piece, he walked up to Nakima and gave her a kiss on the cheek. He was handing out coffee to the people that were there. That goes beyond just being a journalist. I mean, if you're in a combat zone and you're wearing a press badge, but you're handing out magazines full of ammunition to the guys, or you're walking around with the group that's going to attack someone and you're handing out food or coffee, there's going to be a whole lot of questions about, are you really a journalist? And I think that that's the same kind of situation here. Don Lemon could have gone there and actually acted like a journalist, but you could listen to the questions that he was asking the pastor there or the preacher there, and he's obviously politically aligned with the protesters. He went there with them. He knew about the situation beforehand. They informed him. They wanted him to cover it because he's aligned with them politically. Again, he was handing out coffee, helping to organize this, or at least making them more comfortable. So I don't think that you can actually, realistically or convincingly make the argument that he wasn't involved. You can say he wasn't one of the organizers, but he was definitely one of the protesters, particularly when he was there asking questions that were, looking to make people uncomfortable, which he said in a follow-up interview after the show.
It seemed like the foreknowledge was kind of part of the problem. Mm-hmm. The sad part about all of this is that even if they do arrest Don Lemon, this activist woman, I think kind of got exactly what she wanted. I don't think that these people are going to go to prison for multiple years. I would bet if they even do get prosecuted, they serve little to no time at all or get a slap on the wrist. And now every person that never knew who that activist girl was now knows who she is. And she's going to use this as a badge of honor going forward. I watched the, like the perp walk type photos on New York Post, and this is the most press these people have ever got. And Don Lemon, for lack of a better word, he's going to get a ton of press from this as well. And I think that in the end, they're not going to serve something proportionate enough to how much this is going to galvanize their position in their whole group of agitators. Now, does that mean that you don't prosecute them? No, but I think it's going to end up helping them in the end, and they're not going to really serve that much. I bet none of them serve time at all.
So I'm not sure what kind of time they're facing with the charges. I'm not even sure what they're being charged with. But the idea that, and I know that you said, we should prosecute him, and I agree. I don't think that we should be looking for reasons to be negative about it, just because this is actually the first kind of victory that the DOJ is kind of giving to us. And again, I don't know what the charges are going to be, and I don't know how long the maximum sentence is, but it's my opinion that they should be you should throw the book at them, right? Like whatever the maximum is, that's what they should get. And I don't see a whole lot of, I don't find the arguments against that convincing. And what you're alluding to is something that we hear fairly frequently when people say, well, you don't want to, and not that you're saying this, because this is a bit of a different argument, but it rings similar to the argument, well, you don't want to do the things that the Democrats would do, or you don't want to do this because you'll anger the left, or you'll embolden them, or you'll upset them. And that is just, to me, that's not convincing. You have to exercise power when you have it. And you have to do everything you can to make sure the charges stick and make sure that they go to jail for as long as possible. And the reason is they're going to do that to conservatives when they get into power again. The days of polite politics, they're long gone. Those days are over.
But I don't even think that's necessarily the reason you would issue the DOJ to go after him. It's just you got.
The reason is they broke the law.
Yeah, you do the right thing. You uphold the law, and if they were trespassing, I still really haven't watched the video. There was a video of multiple videos of legitimate riots inside of a church. And
to Bobby's point, I mean, like with the FACE Act is, it would be like 2 to 3 year sentences. That's like the criminal level, depending on like if you have any priors or that sort of thing. But it's not going to be like this just insane locking them up for 10, 20 years like people want to see. And that's the thing that is kind of unfortunate. Is, I mean, the FACE Act is great. It's going to make it easy to charge these people. But like, I mean, 2 to 3 years seems fine to me. I don't even think it's going to be that long.
I hope that happens.
Yeah. I mean, with Don Lemon, same thing.
They go to jail for 3 years and they're out just in time for the Democrats to win again.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So, I mean, that is a good point, though. I mean, they could be seeking like press through martyrship. It's just they're making the calculation that they're not going to get 2 to 3 years, because that would be very debilitating for their.
That's what I mean. If it was like 3 months and it blew them up, it's like maybe they baked that into the cake where they're like, this is gonna make us look like a freedom fighter. And what they did was completely purposeless. I remember during the George Floyd time of year in Florida, I saw these people yelling at people that were just sitting at a restaurant. They're like, "You're white and you're gonna sit here while George Floyd." They're like, "What are you even talking about?" So it was a completely purposeless protest. It achieved literally nothing.
I disagree with that. I think that the point of that is to intimidate people on the right. I really do think that it was about intimidating not just the people that were at that church, but other people that are basically on the right, other people that go to church, basically saying, look, you're not safe. Right? They're saying you're not safe in your house of worship. You're not safe walking around the street. And this is something that politicians have said. Maxine Waters said it herself. Get in their face and make sure that they know that they're not welcome. The Democrats really do want to intimidate people out of their political opinions. Now, I know that doesn't work, right? You confront people and you push them, and people tend to double down on what they already believe. But the impulse from the Democrats, I really do think, is about intimidation. They want to scare people. They want to make people feel like they shouldn't they're wrong for having these opinions. So at the very least, they'll keep their heads down. Mm-hmm. So that way the Democrats can go and or the activists, the left can basically do what they want to do unimpeded.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But what I'm saying is that there could have been a lot of people that were at that church service that agreed that ICE is bad. Just because they're at church doesn't mean that they disagree, that they think, Renee Good should have been hurt by that. So I'm just saying there was no specific stance that they were taking just by the act of being in that church at that time. They could have been leftists in there that just happened to be at church, and these people march in and they're yelling at them. If it was some type of right-wing organization or a specific thing where it's like these people have all declared that they believe this thing, then that would make more sense. Not that I'm saying that they don't want to do what you're saying.
Why I think that's why they targeted like the Southern Baptist Church specifically, because like the SBC, the Southern Baptist Convention, it's an overwhelmingly conservative denomination. It's like 80% Republican, I'm pretty sure. And I think that's actually why it matters, the specific church that they went after. Because again, like to your point, if it was like a Methodist church or Episcopalian, like probably the majority of congregants would be agreeing with their protests. But the fact that they've specifically gone after evangelicals is a very strategically smart play if you're like a leftist trying to intimidate. Because again, like evangelicals are the largest religious group in the United States. They're overwhelmingly conservative. They have a very conservative temperament to begin with. And then you have people like Jennifer, I think it was Jennifer Welch, came out after when she was interviewing Don Lemon, and she was like, yeah, the church was filled with white supremacists, because she's saying, again, like from her perspective, that is how they view evangelicals. They view evangelicals as a stand-in for middle Americans. They view evangelicals as these kitschy conservatives that just aren't up with the times, these sorts of things. And so I think that's specifically why they went after that church. I mean, I know they were alleging that the pastor was like some like moonlighting as a ICE field agent officer, whatever you want to call it. But I think it was like a very strategic decision they made to go after a Southern Baptist church.
To your point, we've got this video here from one of the protesters that was arrested today. I forget this guy's name, but he's making the argument that the people inside the church are white supremacists. And now we've said things like, they don't call you a white supremacist because they want to kill you. They call you a white supremacist to justify, aggressing you or attacking you.
Yesterday, I went into a church with Nakima Armstrong and I protested these white supremacists. A pastor of the church is a fucking ICE leader in the city. How can you be a fucking pastor and be a fucking...
All right, pardon his French. But the point I think is well taken. Now, he didn't know any of the people in that church, but he just is going to accuse them of being white supremacists to justify his actions, right? The pastor, even if the pastor was an ICE agent, he worked with ICE or whatever, that doesn't make him a white supremacist.
Right.
But the left does this. They say, well, you're a white supremacist, you're a Nazi, you're this, so I'm justified. It's all about moralizing their attack on you, because they don't want to think of, or they don't think of themselves as the bad guy at all. They wanted to sit there and say, look, we're obviously the good guys. You're obviously the bad guys. So what we're doing isn't trespassing and breaking the law and invading your church service, which is a totally peaceful and very normal American thing to do. What we're doing is we're breaking up a white supremacist rally. We're in here, we're like Captain America punching the Nazis. And that's exactly what this guy how he thinks of himself, And so I think it's worth pointing that out. This guy is in my opinion, he's all bad. Yeah. But they're going to sit there and they're going to always just justify their behavior and say, look, those people are obviously bad people. And it goes beyond just the people in the church. That's what they think of anyone that doesn't agree with them, because you'll see people all the time saying, well, that guy's a Nazi. Well, that guy's a Nazi. Well, that guy's a Nazi. And the person doesn't have... they just have politics that are different. 20 years ago, they had very normal, middle-of-the-road politics. They called, you talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a Nazi. Well, 20 years ago, Donald Trump was a Democrat,
Yeah. Well,
in 2015, I was hanging out in L.A. with my buddy, and we're watching the news, the election, Hillary Clinton, her email scandal breaks. I'm like, okay, it's her turn, Ian. I'm like, okay, but this email scandal is pretty big deal, dude. I'm not a huge Trump fan, but I can't support this woman if she really has this scandal. And he turns at me and he says, you're a racist. Where does that come from? How did that get seeded into my friend's head after I knew him for a decade? I'm literally asking, where did it come from?
Mm-hmm. Mood inhibitors, I think.
Yeah, well, because I actually...
But why racist? I don't understand.
Well, I think it's actually a miscalculation to say that people on the left call you racist or a white supremacist purely for framing purposes. I don't think they actually think that far ahead. I think they legitimately, in their worldview, they believe that anybody that would be opposed to any sort of immigration enforcement whatsoever, they genuinely believe you're a racist. They genuinely believe a white supremacist. They're not labeling you that just as a justification for their beliefs. They legitimately think that he legitimately thought you were racist. He legitimately thinks these people in this church are white supremacists because they're even in your case like vague support of borders, these sorts of things, because in the leftist framework, like all of this is reductive, all of this is just impediments to like individuality, impediments to sort of like liberating people from these like pre-assigned identities. And so it's actually like if you look at it from a leftist framework, it would make absolute sense that someone that is just against Hillary Clinton broadly would be a racist, because in their framework, it makes total sense.
Maybe it's that he heard on Rachel Maddow that Trump was a racist, and anybody not Hillary Clinton was a Trump supporter, therefore also as racist as Trump. Maybe that was the logic.
Well, yeah, his calculation was just Trump is supportive of border enforcement. Hillary Clinton is wishy-washy on it. So by not voting for Hillary Clinton, not of like, crying tears of joy at the thought of Hillary Clinton being president, you are then abetting Donald Trump like to win in the election. So it goes through a few different levels, but yeah, by not again throwing your full weight behind Hillary Clinton, that in their framework makes you a Trump supporter. In their framework, because you're not helping Hillary beat Trump, that sort of thing.
It's funny that they thought that when you were talking about a very specific legal issue. It's like, what about this email scandal? And it's like, oh, you're a racist. We can't even focus on this one singular issue. That should be a problem that even you should be concerned of, whether I was a racist or not. Yeah. Like, can we just agree that this is a bad thing and should be looked at?
Yeah, you should have been like, yeah, but so that's not the point.
Right. I did. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? He's like, it's her turn, Ian. It's her turn. And I'm like, what, bro? I'm just talking about this. Like, he might have been able to convince me to vote for her if he'd had the conversation instead of shutting it down with pejoratives. It was crazy town. And I bailed on LA after that. That was it for me. I was like, I'm done. Done.
That was when you left Los Angeles?
Yeah. That was like the break. He was like my best friend in LA. It was just the breaking point where I'm like, something happened to people between 2010 and 2015 that was like unforeseen.
I noticed this with older generations is you guys always talk about how you have friends that are on the left, friends that are liberals, these sorts of things. I found it Zoomers, like for people that always don't know, I'm 24. I find that like I don't really have any friends that are on the left, because I think there is like a filtering that occurred probably with younger millennials and then down, where things got so calcified. The what's the word I'm looking for? The stratification of political beliefs occurred at such a level that legitimately I don't really have much to talk about with someone else on the left. Like, we are in two completely different worlds entrenched. Like, so the actual foundation for a friendship to even be built on is just not there. When previously, like when you guys were growing up, the disagreements would be on maybe more like policy grounded things like tax policy, maybe your view on foreign policy, these sorts of things, where now it's like literally if you're on the right or left, that is a reduction of your worldview fundamentally. And if you just have a completely different worldview from someone, you're literally one person seeing, a 6, the other person seeing a 9. It's really hard to find the ground to like actually build a friendship on unless you like grew up together. And even that case, like a lot of people that I grew up with that have, developed like left-wing beliefs, we don't really even keep in touch anymore. Because again, it's like you can only talk about sports for so long, I think
it just wasn't in your face, really. Like when I was building a lot of my friend group, it wasn't in my face. It wasn't like they could lock you in your house and force you to get vaccinated or you lose your job. Yeah. It wasn't that. It didn't seem that serious. It's like the president sucks. We don't like him. The money is fake. It's not backed by anything. And that was the end of it. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about it in such a way where it's felt more daunting on our everyday life and as visible. Trump is on TV every single day, no matter whether you want to know about him or not. And I think that brings it into the conversation where you see the fragment between you and that person more, and it makes those decisions to stay apart.
Oh, yeah, COVID for sure. Well because it was they became afraid of people that weren't vaccinated. Yes. They'd be like, they're going to harm me just by being. And other people were like, they're crazy they're going to try and force me to take a medicine I don't want. Just like and that's like when you're afraid of someone just for being there because they
say you can't come over. They say you can't come over. You can't come to the party. How many people said, "Oh, you can't come to my wedding if you're not vaccinated," or "You can't come and visit my newborn baby if you're not vaccinated." That was a real thing, and it's just like, what is even that? I have to stay outside. How do you hang out with a person if that's the case? And then it further starts to bleed into where maybe they sit there thinking, well, if he won't do this to come to my wedding, then is he really my friend? And you're like,
do you think it started with COVID? No, I'm not. I think that it became. I think that like COVID was like nitrous oxide to it.
Yes.
But I feel like it started before then.
I think it started before then, but I just mean that the level of severity for how much it could fragment your a potential friendship with a person was never more in your face really until then. Where it's just like, if you didn't do this one specific thing, it's dangerous to hang out with you.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe this thing, you want to kill grandma and kill your neighbor. It's like it never really seemed that serious. If we disagree on foreign policy or monetary policy or whatever, even the border, it's like that's not you don't come to my wedding.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's like you want me to die or vice versa. And I almost either side could think the same thing.
Yeah. All right, we're going to jump to this story here. And this is more of the significant disparity between what the left believes and what the right believes. But this is a little more blatant and in your face. So the Washington Post is reporting that ICE detains 4 children from Minnesota district, including a 5-year-old. Washington Post says Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents in Minnesota have detained at least 4 children from the same school district this month, including a 5-year-old boy. School officials in Minneapolis suburbs said Wednesday. The events have inflamed tensions between residents and ICE officers, sparked by the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Renee Good by an ICE officer this month. The Trump administration has sought to justify the presence of ICE personnel by saying the officers are detaining immigrants convicted on violent crimes. The administration doesn't have to justify ICE's presence. The fact that there are illegal immigrants in Minnesota and Minnesota does not detain and turn these illegal immigrants over to the federal government for deportation is the only justification that ICE needs. And it bothers me that the Post would even portray it like this, right? But it gets worse. Why detain a 5-year-old girl? Zena Svetnik said, the superintendent of the Columbian Heights Public School District, located just north of Minneapolis, said at a news conference, "You cannot tell me that this child is going to be classified as a violent criminal." 5-year-old Liam Cone Ramos and his father, who the Department of Homeland Security identified as Adrian Alexander Conez Erez in an email statement, were detained in their driveway Tuesday afternoon just as they were returning from the child's school, according to a news release from Columbia Heights Public School. Now, this man is an illegal immigrant. And when ICE approached, he ran, leaving the 5-year-old child standing there. One of the ICE agents stayed with the child. The other ICE agent took off after the illegal immigrant. When you get arrested, if you have kids, your kids are separated from you because they don't put your kid in the jail cell with you. This is something that is as mundane an activity, a law enforcement activity, as it can possibly be. Every day people are arrested. Every day people are separated from their children because we don't throw kids in jail with adults. But the way that the left has been portraying it is that this child was detained. ICE is so mean and so bad, and they're just detaining children and they just want to throw kids in jail. And doesn't that just tug at your heartstrings? Well, it's all BS. It's all a lie. So I don't know that there's any remedy for this because, again, the Washington Post reports it. Actually, here from Homeland Security, ICE did not target a child. The child was abandoned. On January 20th, ICE conducted a targeted operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conel Erez, an illegal alien from Ecuador who was released into the U.S. by the Biden administration. Agents approached the driver, Adrian Alexander Conel Erez, fled on foot, abandoning his child. For the child's safety, one of our ICE officers remained with the child while the other officers apprehended Conel Erez. Parents were asked if they wanted to be removed with their children, or ICE will place the children with a safe person the parent designates. This is consistent with the past administration's immigration enforcement. Parents can take control of their departure and receive a free flight and $2,600 with the CBP Home app. By using the CBP Home app, illegal aliens reserve the chance to come back the right legal way. Look, man, if the government is offering you $3,000 to get out of the United States and you're here illegally and then you could come back, that is the way to do it. Right? Like, you don't want to get picked up by ICE and then lose the possibility of coming back. Take the money and run and file your paperwork and come here legally.
I agree with that. It's don't put your family at risk. It's a risk, and people are like, "Good Lord, you know where it's back where I came from." It's a risk I'm willing to, but like, Bro, don't be a fugitive for the next 30 years. Like, if you're here illegally, it's not a horrible idea to consider.
Self-deport.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the kids in cages controversy. I don't know if we're turning back the clock here. Like, Unc may have to lay this out for. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone remembers the kids in cages, where the left was literally making the argument that we should be throwing children in general population prisons. Like, that was the legitimate argument they're making. Is they're like, no, you should detain the children with the parents and then put the kids in detainment centers with like other adults. Like, are we new around? Not to mention all of the trafficking going on. It's the same thing where it's just like they've latched onto this battle cry that actually doesn't really make any sense under just the lightest bit of scrutiny, and it's just bizarre. But the thing is, like, they already got their talking point. There's nothing we can say to someone in the audience. There's probably no one watching that would be supporting of this sort of talking point. But no matter what you say to someone on the left, explaining this out, explaining what the procedure is, what happened, it doesn't matter. They're entrenched. This is the talking point.
They're abusing language. They're saying detained as if it's like, okay, so what other word would you prefer to use?
Yeah.
Like if you were arrested and you had a 13-year-old kid in the house, they have to do something, or a 10-year-old kid or whatever. It doesn't matter that he's 5. And then by them framing, it's like they would only detain him if they thought he was a violent combatant or something. It's like, so what else do? You leave the 5-year-old at the house?
I mean, look, if you were honest, they could have said that if they wanted, if the press was honest, they could say that the child was in the care of.
Yeah, exactly.
ICE, because that's what it was. They were taking care of the 5-year-old because it's freezing out, and you don't leave a kid standing there like, well, that's 5 years old with no idea what's going on, being like, why did my dad run away from me? Why is my dad being chased by the cops? Like, the ICE officers are trying to take care of the child's best interest by not letting the kid stand there in the freezing cold.
Yeah.
But the media want not just, and this is the big problem, right? Rep. Jimmy Gomez says ICE just used a 5-year-old boy as bait, forcing him to knock on his own door so they could arrest his father. Trump, ICE, and CBP don't see these families as people, and that's exactly how they're treating them. That is just absolutely BS.
Yeah.
But an actual congressperson is saying this. Another one, Mayor Jacob Fry, 5 years old. This is a child, not a threat to our community. When the federal government treats kids like criminals, something has gone seriously wrong. Totally made up, making everything worse. Now, I mean, Jacob Fry is absolute garbage, right? Like, if this guy actually cared about the people in his community, he would be helping to apprehend the criminal aliens and turning them over. But he doesn't want to do that. And then there was one thing that I saw. Chuck Todd had made a comment. He said, the lack of empathy, is it a feature or a bug? And it's like, Chuck, then I chimed in here and I ratioed the crap out of him. You're either an active propagandist or a gullible fool. And that's exactly what he's an active propagandist, obviously.
Yes.
It's simple to find the information of actually what happened. I'm sure that he follows ICE or the Department of Homeland Security on X. Mm-hmm. He could just read their statement, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
And he leaves the tweet up.
Chuck Todd, it's kind of useful that he kind of looks like Jim Cramer, because he really is the Jim Cramer of politics, where it's like generally the position he has on any sort of incident, the opposite position is probably the correct take to have. So, this is just the lack of empathy. You should be thankful that ICE is even like demonstrating empathy in the first place, because like that's, again, their job is to just conduct an operation. So the fact that they actually are taking care of these kids, that they actually are demonstrating a degree of empathy is great, because it's like, look around the world how their federal police handle affairs, and you'll find pretty quickly that the United States is actually an outlier. Certainly not the norm.
Imagine how stupid you would have to believe that, or you have to be to believe that ICE just swarmed this 5-year-old kid.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, they treated this kid like if there was an actual video of what actually happened with the kid, I bet it's very nice and very friendly. But they're painting it as if they rappelled down from a helicopter and tackled him into the door.
It's like the Emilio Gonzalez picture from the 90s where the guy's pointing an MP5 at the kid, to grab him. And that happened in the United States, but that was 30 years ago now. And like, this is not the way that law enforcement behaves at all anymore, because everyone has a phone in their pocket with a video camera, and law enforcement can't afford to behave like that. They have to do everything they can to abide by the law, and they do. They try to use as little force as possible. That's why That's why having body cameras has been the best thing that's happened to law enforcement in forever. Because there's so many people that are so quick to say, oh, well, law enforcement does this, law enforcement does that, and they're so bad and blah, blah, blah. See the body camera. And it exonerates the police officers every time.
Well, they're making hay when the sun shines. They're looking for absolutely anything to make you look like an inhuman monster. It's just sad that people will actually see this and believe it. That's the part that blows my mind the most. Not so much that they're doing it because they're trying to make something out of nothing, but that people actually do believe this, that this is actually happening as they're framing it.
Don't you think that that's motivated, though? That they believe it because they want to believe it, and then they engage in it. They engage in spreading the story because they want other people to believe it, and they want other people to feel the same kind of anger at ICE, regardless of whether it's justified?
I just think that, I don't know if it's chicken or the egg, but I mean that the fact that people will see something like that from Chuck Todd and be like, wow, or from Mayor Fry and say, wow, they're treating him like a violent combatant. Like, the fact that people believe that is crazy. The fact that they're posting about it is unsurprising to me, is what I'm trying to say. Like, that there is a person on the other end on X that's logging on and seeing that and being like, can you believe how these ICE agents are treating these 5-year-olds without even looking into it? These guys playing on their emotions, that to me seems par for the course. But the fact that people actually believe it is what I'm so surprised about.
Man, the body cams really were like a total gift for the right.
They were.
Like, when's the last time you saw any hubbub over an unarmed black man being shot? It just hasn't happened since the advent of the body cameras. And yeah, the left were the ones that pushed for it. I think if the right knew how that played out, they would have been like, yeah, sign us up. I do remember like the right was at the first, I was like, I don't know, maybe. Hilarious. And we've gotten some like really hilarious photos out of it. Like that one lady that I think she like threw boiling water on the cop and then she like charged at him with a knife, and it created like the funniest photo I've ever seen in my life. So it's like total libtard self-own with that move. I wouldn't be surprised if they're advocating against body cameras because it's an invasion of your rights or something like that in the near future, because it's been such a disaster for them.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to robot cops, but I didn't want to hijack the conversation.
Oh, the robot cops,
Robot
dude?
cops.
The body camera will stream straight to Lively.
Yeah, it'll be 360 body cams, so you can like go into the 360 video and watch it from any direction. And,
Dude,
and you can't blame the robot. You can only blame the
The
system.
RoboCop, dude, it's gonna be like the kill cam and COD.
But
like,
my question is, who's going to install robot cops first? Democrats or Republicans?
Do you remember?
good
Do you
question.
remember the guy in Dallas that got blown up by a robot cop? So there was a dude that was shooting at the cops, and he was behind Jersey barriers. So he's got cover, and the cops are just like, "Well, send the robot in." They sent the robot in and just blew it up and killed the guy. So that's already happened. Robot cops exist now.
They detonate. They can.
Yeah, I'm not sure
detonate.
exactly how it went down, but they just went over. They went over, and the robot took the guy out. But the idea of robot cops, I don't think that the American people are ever going to be comfortable with totally autonomous law enforcement. But I do think that you'll see in the coming probably 5 years, you'll see a lot more robot partners. Right.
Well,
So
Elon
you've got
said that today. Did you see his post about it?
I'm not saying that there won't be robot cops. There'll be robots that will go and do the dangerous stuff, but there will probably be an actual human being with them. That's why I'm saying like robot partners. So in the car, you've got one human being cop, and he'll be backed up by a robot.
And then like a robot dog.
I do think that's true.
Yeah.
What was
A
that?
couple robot dogs in the back if they need them out of the trunk or something.
I mean, maybe. Look, man, robots are going to be so cheap and everywhere. Nowadays, you can get, there's actual humanoid robots that I posted a link and some stuff about it a couple of months back, probably halfway through the year last year. And you can actually get a robot for your house right now. Humanoid robot.
Yeah.
They're around $20,000, $30,000. And I've said this a bunch of times. When you offer the upper middle class a $30,000 robot that you pay $500 a month for 72 months, and you've got 6% financing or whatever, and it does your dishes, it picks up after you, it mows your lawn, that is going to be the hottest product. Elon Musk is totally right. That will be the hottest product in the country, because you're going to have basically this robot that gets consistent updates, downloads, anything that you want it to do. You can go ahead and type it. You'll be able to type into an AI and say, hey, I want my robot to do this, and it'll download it just like in the Matrix right into the robot, and then the robot can do it. You're going to see all of the low-skilled jobs, they're going to be gone because robots will do it, because right now you got to pay someone you know, say you're paying an illegal, right? You're a business owner and you're paying illegals to pick strawberries, right? And you pay them under the table and you end up paying them 25 grand a year, right? Total for the whole year. That's a huge amount of money for an illegal. They don't have to pay taxes on it. But if you can buy a robot for $25,000 and it lasts you 5 years, the math is simple. Obviously, you're going to buy the robot.
Well,
Can't get deported.
have you seen the? Yeah, it's so true. Have you seen the?
You can't get deported, or won't be deported.
It's really tough to
and you
abort
don't have to
robots,
worry
yeah.
about if it doesn't. You don't have to worry about it getting sick.
They're really good at paperwork. ChatGPT, they just load it all in.
Seriously.
Have you seen like these people that are buying the humanoid robots? Have you seen where like their houses that looks like a Mexican grandmother's house where they're having to put blankets over their mirrors because the humanoid robots can't tell that the mirror is a mirror. So they're slamming into it at full speed, shattering mirrors, and it's flying. There's a video, I can't remember which streamer it was, but he had a humanoid robot and he just slammed it
Was
with
it
his
Kai
body mirror.
Cenat?
No, it was someone else. But yeah, he just slammed it at full speed and the robot like didn't know what was going on. He felt bad. Like you could tell the robot like knew what he did.
The robot felt bad.
yeah, so
the
it's
robot
really-
didn't feel anything. Don't humanize him that much.
So it's like I don't know if the robots can't figure like they got to figure out the mirrors first because like I have a lot of mirrors. I don't want them breaking them. It
They
could
look
be
like tunnels too if you look into them long enough.
it's like a Looney Tunes kind of thing where you paint the tunnel.
Especially
on
if you have a mirror behind you and in front of you. It's an infinite
dude.
chamber of mirror.
Here
This
we
is
go.
it. Yeah, here it
Here
is.
we go. Is that real? Yeah, that is real, isn't it?
It's a big
What are you
issue.
doing? That's my mirror. What are you doing? Stop.
I don't know if that's real.
One of your units just ran into my mirror and is causing damage. I'm a little worried. That's not gonna work.
Yeah, I think it's a skit.
Oh my god.
No, but this has been. I've seen other TikToks and stuff of this. It's like an epidemic where they're
Well, I
just
mean,
slamming into mirrors.
I believe you, but
Or
that
they slam
that
into
was,
windows like a dog. I mean, dogs have this problem already where dogs like can't tell
Dogs
it's a
do have
window
this
and they just
problem.
slam into it.
You know, to be honest with you, I understand that, but I think that they'll probably fix that problem.
But how?
I don't know.
Ian, how would they fix it?
Sonar maybe, like other things than light, using other things than light to measure your surroundings.
No,
So-
I bet. Know what I bet you they'll do? They'll make the robot. They'll basically give the robot an understanding of what it is. So when it sees itself in a mirror, that's a mirror. And they'll say, if you see this, you know, because that's what Tesla's doing. They're saying, look, we want them to look at the world the way the humans do. So the Tesla robots are identifying things just using vision, right? They that's what the car does. My car.
Can we? Let's cut through the like ICE arrested a 5-year-old, whatever. I'm sure the kid was probably doing something. I don't know. Bobby, do you think we're getting sex robots?
Oh, come on. Yes, of course, but not. They're starting in Japan.
First of all,
I'm
my,
asking
I want to
you,
hear
like,
Bobby
you're-
say it. My issue was primarily cop robots that make decisions. That was my issue. That's what I've been thinking about this whole time.
No, this is the interesting thing, apparently.
I would say absolutely that has to happen.
Has to happen?
I would say that will absolutely happen if it hasn't already.
You heard my take on this, right?
Haven't you seen Ex Machina, that movie?
Oh, dude, yeah, it's a goon bot.
That seems to me like likely the most likely scenario. Although the turning into a humanoid or whatever at the end, I don't know.
Well, because there was an article in the New York Post from like 10 years ago where they're like, by 2025, the majority of women will be having sex with robots.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And
a few
they-
Roomba situations that got a little weird, but apart from that, I don't think it's happened.
I mean, they kind of are a little bit already.
Yeah, a
little bit.
Vibrators are robots, whether you want to actually like consider that the truth or not.
Speaking of
They really are.
Renee
But when it comes to like goonbots, like they will actually become a thing once the robots can wash themselves.
Right, yeah, that's
Because nobody's gonna want to, like actually like having to take it apart to clean it, and
Self-cleaning
nobody's gonna wanna do
Goombot in the shower. They got to be waterproof, obviously.
it. Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Well, because that's what's interesting is like, a lot of these fellas, the guys are really receiving a lot of vitriol for like rizzing up ChatGPT. Because when I see them, show what their chat logs look like, a lot of times it's just like epic game. I'm like, I kind of respect you really did rizz up ChatGPT. Something that's interesting to me, this is a bit dark, but I've seen this happen a few times, is when a guy like fumbles a girl. For people in the crowd who don't know what fumbling means, it means he failed to, close the deal, making her his wife or that sort of thing. They load their text messages from the girl they fumbled into ChatGPT to recreate her personality. And this has happened a few times.
So are they like?
I thought you were going to go a different way with that.
So the work
Well,
game
maybe.
on the old girl's personality, then can they be like increased difficulty? And then it's like, oh,
Right.
now it's even harder to my game. It's like up a notch. Now it's 2 p.m. She's not drunk anymore. Now I got
Yeah.
to try a little harder.
Right, I think there's Serge might be able to find it. There was a TikTok of a guy. He did this. He fumbled completely. It was very embarrassing. He was demoralized. loaded the text messages into ChatGPT to recreate the personality, and then he did something similar where he won her back through ChatGPT. ChatGPT like coached him how to win her back. I don't know if it worked or not. I
would hope not for that lady, for that gal. I hope that she did not get won back by the guy that uploaded her personality into
He's just utilizing resources.
Yeah, because if you did,
I don't know.
would you make ChatGPT the godfather?
Ooh.
Of the kid?
Right.
If it got you back together with the girl, eventually she's going to be comfortable enough with you telling her.
Then who would be the godmother?
Wait, did he upload the text messages? I thought you were saying he uploaded the text messages for the purpose of recreating her absence. You're saying he did that to learn better so that he could go back to get her back? Is that what you're saying?
Most of them are doing it for the absence because they're, it's just whatever. It's hard, I guess. But
That's
this specific gentleman was doing it to I'm going back in, but I need to be like a pro.
That actually I would say is okay, but the person that's doing it to replace her absence, I'd equate that to like those TLC shows where the girl eats paper towels or eats like couch cushions or whatever. It's like you don't exist. It's like the guy that marries the doll. Like I'm just gonna pretend you don't exist.
Anything that facilitates humans interacting with humans and helps people that are having problems, communicating with people, I think that it's actually okay.
Yeah, that's good.
No, because sometimes it's like.
Because the goal is human interaction, and that's something that we lack nowadays.
This sounds bad, this sounds mean, but do you remember on TLC they had that show where it was like My Weird Addiction, and there was that one guy who had a romantic relationship with those like fire trucks. He was like really into fire trucks.
No, I don't remember that show at all. Tate.
I think I do remember.
Yeah,
that.
That's
what I was just referencing.
My Strange Addiction. That guy, again, this is really mean. I'm sorry if you're in the audience, the fire truck lover, but it's probably good if he's removed from the gene pool.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
It's not personal, but that's how nature functions. If a child's born with crippling, debilitation, it doesn't survive. But if you have ChatGPT to tell it how to get the girl, it just might.
You just took my example and turned it up to like Gooner 10. I'm talking about like helping people to interact, people that are like a little on the reserve side, because there's a range
deserve
of
love.
What?
They deserve love.
Yeah, because I'm not talking about like dudes that want to bang toasters. I'm talking about like if you're
on banging toasters.
If you're an introvert,
We've all been there.
If you're an introverted person, it's difficult to learn to interact with people and stuff. Like, look, so I'm a fairly introverted kind of guy, right? Normally, I had to learn how to interact with people, and I'm perfectly fine with it nowadays. But because of being a guy in a band, the singer, like people want to talk to me. So I had to learn how to interact with people, how to act like a normal person, not to be like, feel uncomfortable. People that are extroverted, they go out and they hang out with people and they're like, oh, I feel great. They get after that, they feel energized and stuff. People that are introverted, they go and they hang out with people and they're like, man, I need some time away from people. I need time alone. And I had to learn how to get through that. If you have a chat bot that helps you to learn to interact with people so that way you can go out and do normal people things, not bang toasters, but go out and do normal human being things, I think that that's actually a win for society because it'll help to get people to make more babies, to interact, have more fulfilled lives, because human connection is the thing that makes people feel fulfilled. And if you are a person that's kind of depressed and don't really know how to talk to people, but you talk with a chatbot and it kind of helps you build up your confidence and you can go out and interact with people better, you're going to have more people that are better adjusted. And you're going to have more people that feel more confident going out.
Yes.
And obviously, it's not going to work for everybody, but the people that it helps will actually have a more fulfilled and gratifying life.
A little humiliating, but I'll mention it. When I got that same benefit from playing The Sims, they had like psychologists help develop the first few, I think, and watching them interact. Like if you tried to hug a person over and over again, the person's like,
that's
weird.
true.
And I'm like, okay. And you learn about these little things like maybe now is not the time to tell her you love her. Maybe just let her rest. And then like, okay, this is actually kind of helping me get out of a pit that I was in. Yeah. And I kind of, then I stopped smoking pot and I was okay.
That actually is a fair point. And I would say that ChatGPT is no different than reading a relationship book or anything else.
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
That's a net
Great
positive, book. Absolutely. But yeah, it was the uploading the girlfriend's personality in there, I thought, to replace her. That kind of sent me where I was like, I don't know about that.
All right, we're going to jump to this next story here. A little more white pilling for you guys. From CBS News, murders plummeted more than 20% in U.S. last year. The largest drop on record, study shows. I hear that it's actually, it says right here. Murders plummeted more than 20% in 2025 from the year before, the single largest one-year drop on record, and it might be the lowest murder rate in the U.S. since 1900, a study released Thursday by the Council on Criminal Justice found. The annual Crime Trends Report analyzed data from 40 large cities across the United States for 13 different crime types, including murder, carjacking, theft, and drug offenses. Alongside homicide, which dropped 21% from 2024, carjackings have declined 61% since 2023, while shoplifting is down 10% since 2024. In general, the overall crime rate declined, with violent crimes at or below levels seen in 2019. The analysis found drug offenses were the only category that rose during this period, while sexual assault remained even. This is actually evidence that deporting people is probably a good thing. If you are going to if you're going to close the border, right, and stop people coming in, and that's going to have a 20% drop in murder, never open the border again. Never. Like, I mean, obviously I'm being a little hyperbolic there, but like deporting criminals works. Deporting criminals not just gets criminals out, but it makes criminals less likely to commit crime because they're going to get effing deported.
Yeah, exactly. It makes the illegal immigrants less likely to commit violent crimes because they're more likely to get tossed. I don't know why I just repeated what you said. That's true.
I think that this is, I don't think any person could think that this is a bad thing. Like, we all want the murder rate to be lower, but not to, like, don't call me black-pilled, but when I look at what they're saying there, they said from 40 large cities. So which 40 large cities? That's one thing. The second thing is that when Biden was the president, one of the things that Trump said is that and a lot of Republicans said is that the crime statistics are not real because they're not reporting to the FBI in these certain areas. So the crime statistics are off the charts. So it's like, are the crime statistics that they're giving us now to prove that they're low, are those correct? Or are they being compared to the ones that were the real statistics that we didn't have because they weren't reporting it? So what even is anything? And it says 40 cities. Which 40 cities have it? Did any other cities go up? So as much as I want and like to celebrate this and would love to believe that it's true, these little small details confuse me, where it's like, if we had the worst economy a year ago and now we have the best economy in the world, if we had the highest crime rate ever and now we have the best, it's like, where are we? What are you trying to sell me, CBS News? Like, what are you trying to convince me of?
Yeah, I'm with Bobby. Like, I don't think if you're in the Trump administration or if you're a Trump supporter, we should just be like jumping for joy over this. Because to your point, I mean, these cities are starting to phone it in, probably maliciously, on their crime data because they are like, we can go to these cities. Things are not improving. Like, we're not idiots. Philadelphia's not improving. New York City, not improving. Los Angeles, not improving. Even Omaha, I've never been, but Raleigh, not improving. Mm-hmm. So it's like, there's just no way that Los Angeles saw a 39% drop in homicides. Right. That's absurd.
So,
and then you dig into it, like, you're seeing where they play it fast and loose with like the racial classifications, where it'll be like an obvious like Guatemalan, and they're like, it's a white guy. You're like, what?
Okay, so these cities, right? So New York, Philadelphia, Omaha, Nebraska, Raleigh, North Carolina. These are Democrat-run cities, right? So what would be the benefit for them to give crime statistics that are lower?
They don't want the National Guard coming in. That's the whole reason.
Okay.
To reelect more Democrats, for example.
Yeah, the Trump administration has made it very clear that if you can't clean up your mess, then we're sending in the National Guard. We're going to put pressure on you. We're going to even touch your federal funding. Yeah. So all that really did, it was great. I'm 100% supportive of the National Guard coming in, but this is why we can't trust the crime data now, because they are now directly incentivized to muddy the data. Like, and people were saying, for the record, people were saying, you can go on Twitter, people were saying this when the first crackdown happened in Washington, D.C. They said, these police departments are going to start fudging the numbers to keep the Trump administration from sending in the National Guard.
And also to keep Democrats in power in those respective areas. It's like, look, we got the crime down. So, if in any movie that you've ever watched about politics, it's like the mayor wants to get reelected.
Yeah.
Let's just not classify that as what it is.
But that's a double-edged sword, because the Republicans are going to use that, saying, look at how successful Donald Trump is. Look at how successful Donald Trump's policies have been. And so I think that I'm not sure which is a more compelling narrative, because again, if Republicans are saying, look, our immigration policies have caused crime to go down, et cetera, people that aren't from these cities are going to say, well, okay, well, that's pretty good. Maybe I should vote for the Republicans again. And then the individual cities, obviously the politicians from the individual cities will say, well, see, my policies are actually good and they're reducing crime. So maybe there will be more, maybe Democrats that are in positions of power now will get reelected, but it still will credit the Donald Trump administration.
I would just say that I haven't seen them ever reference his job being bad as it relates to murders and or crime. I don't think that that's like a winning argument for them. So even if you gave this to him, you still have a whole pile of other issues that you could hammer him on. So the murder rate being good serves your ends more than it hurts him. That's how I look at it.
Do you think that the Donald Trump administration is going to be able to capitalize on this kind of information and say, look, our policies are helping?
Yeah, they might try. They shouldn't, because it's just not. From a political science point of view, it's not actually advantageous to applaud blue cities for lowering crime. I mean, you could attribute it to like some directives from the federal government, but that just doesn't seem wise. The Trump administration right now is actually incentivized to accurately portray the situation in the cities, which is they are out of control. They are crying out for federal intervention. I haven't seen, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, I actually haven't seen any federal agencies chest beating over this data, nor should they. They should continue doing what Trump had talked about previously, which is that some of this data is skewed. But what's not being talked about, what should be talked about, is that they're also misrepresenting racial crime data. And it creates a lot of problems. It makes it more difficult to draw up policy, to accurately give the people a picture of what's going on. Because in most of these cities, it's mostly black people committing the violent crime. But now you're seeing like the black crime rate drop down, and then you just dig a little bit. You just spot check different cases, and it'll be like literally a Guatemalan, literally a black guy, and they'll be like, it was a white guy that did it.
Well, I'm aware of the fact that there are times where they'll go ahead and misrepresent the race of the person committing crime, and particularly when it comes to Hispanic or Latino people, they'll call them white.
It's never the other. It's never like a white person getting labeled as black or Hispanic. It's just because, again, there's different incentive structures that would kick in if you accurately sort of laid out to the American people like who's committing the violent crime. I mean, we saw it after Irina's Roots go. Like everyone for like 2 weeks was very comfortable going out and saying black crime's a huge problem. Just black culture in general is making our cities unlivable. But then like 2 weeks later, granted Charlie happened, so that took precedent. Mm-hmm. But then after that, like people stopped talking about it. And it was like, okay, well, we're never going to actually like, our cities are never going to be livable until we're just very direct and confront like black crime as a reality.
It reminds me of in 2020 when it was the elections and the ballot issues and proving it. And I remember thinking to myself, if I was a leftist mailman, for example, and I obtained a bag of what I knew to be votes, and I didn't want Trump to win because I thought he was a fascist dictator that was going to destroy the country and democracy would die forever, wouldn't nobody have to tell me that I should just throw these ballots in the garbage and pretend that I lost them if I got them from let's say a nursing home in a red area that I knew that they were likely to be Trump ballots? Wouldn't I just know to throw them out because I'm helping to save the dictator? I would wager that it's highly likely that these types of things as well could be altered in that same way, where you don't necessarily need to get a directive from the top-down Democratic Party to say, hey, fudge these numbers, but they're like, hey, man, the captain of the police squad says, don't put it in as a black guy, put it in as a white guy. And it just kind of trickles through as like an unspoken understanding where this benefits us. And what it also does is it makes Trump going and knocking down doors and getting people out not seem like it's justified because it's really not that violent.
Yeah, well, police unions are one of the last institutions in America that are actually conservative still. Like if you go and, again, spot check different cities, look at their police unions, they're typically endorsing Republicans. They're typically made up. I mean, police officers, we all know police officers. Like the majority of police officers are like conservative, patriots. It's the police chiefs, which are appointed by the mayor, or it's sheriffs, which are elected by the county. Typically, these counties are blue. So unfortunately, they're taking directives from those guys. And then also a lot of the desk jobs in police departments are not staffed by like patriots that are on the patrol. They're staffed by just whoever they can find. A lot of times, no offense to, there's some great people I know that work on police desks, but they're pulled out of like the general population. They're not like police, like hardened police officers. So those are the people that probably have more of a liberal leaning and would be incentivized to hide the ball a little bit on what's going on in these cities. So,
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, I wouldn't be surprised if that type of thing was happening
It's all
in all
unspoken.
types of statistical
Yeah.
reporting and all types of everything. And even in newsrooms or whatever, if you were a leftist reporter that was for a, let's call it a middle of the line, outlet or something, I don't know how many journalists are there with you on the scene to get whatever the story is. Could you alter it a little bit to serve your own ends? Could that happen? Because if you frame Trump as the second coming of the worst dictator in the history of time, and the democracy is going to die in darkness, and we're going to lose democracy forever, and this guy represents an existential threat to humanity as a whole, it's like the collective modification that would happen all the way up and down the chain without any directive, I think would be everywhere.
Yeah, it's all incentive structures. Like, I mean, you're exactly right. Is like, I mean, it's not, a top down. It's not Nancy Pelosi giving out talking points to like the Jacksonville County Sheriff's Department. It's just like, it's all unspoken. It's all like, this kind of looks a little bad. Maybe we can clean things up a little bit, and they can justify it to themselves. They can come up with like reasons for why they're doing these things, even if it's explicitly racial justice or something, which you do see from time to time. But yeah, Bobby, it's
More
like,
than that,
it's so
from time
true.
to time. I think that's the motivating factor for
for
most of the left generally.
It helps them moralize these things, and so yeah, it's not like a top-down directive. Even in the media, it's not the New York Times. I mean, they do have a relationship, obviously, with the Democrat Party. In many ways, they're like the propaganda arm of the Democrat Party. But none of these things require like directives. A lot of these things are just, these people are instinctually liberals, they're instinctually left-wing, and they view themselves as part of a revolution, and so they're going to behave in accordance with that.
Yeah, that's something that we talked about, is the lack of necessity for, liberals or progressives to act like progressives, right? Like whereas there are times where I think there's a script that comes out for specific issues. There are things that they want like the thought leaders to say. Overall, you don't have to instruct a progressive on what to say on each individual issue, because it's like you don't have to tell a Catholic how to be a Catholic. The liberal progressive really does treat their politics as if it's a religion, and because of that, you don't have to tell them, oh, this is what you're supposed to think about this, or this is what you're supposed to think about this. You'll get some variation in the way that they apply the doctrine, but if you're a liberal progressive that went to college, that kind of was indoctrinated with that thought process, it doesn't take someone telling you what to think, or this issue you have this opinion, this issue you have this opinion, because the doctrine is part of the way that you see the world. When people would talk about critical race theory, that phrase has kind of fallen out of favor, and people say, oh, woke is dead, so we don't have to worry about it. It's totally wrong, because it's not about just one policy or just some people. It's a way to view the world, and it's taught from great. Nowadays, there are people that are out in society that were taught from grade school all the way through college, and they got into jobs in human resources, and so that's just the way they see the world. It doesn't have to be instructed to anymore. This is, to them, that's how reality is, and that's part of why there's such a divide between the right and the left. People on the right didn't internalize those ideas, or were insulated from them somehow, whether it be through family, through their church, through whatever it may be. And people on the left, they really do see the world through this critical lens, where you have to try your best to make sure that you are trying to implement justice for the marginalized communities in every aspect and every chance you get.
Well, you need to look like that's what you're trying to do, more so than you actually have to be effective at doing it. You need people to think that you're empathetic to them. What actually happens doesn't matter. You just want them to think that you are like that.
Which is, it kind of adds to my point about it being a religion. Like, there are plenty of Christians out there, and plenty of people that would say that they're religious, that they're in church on Sunday, and then on Tuesday they're out with the boys chasing skirts around town, or while their wife's home with the kids or whatever. There are plenty of people that are doing things just to, to keep up appearances. So
yeah, like a lot of leftism, I think, is very performative. Where if you come to them and you say, well, even though I want to protect this group of people and protect this class of people, when you put this policy in that you guys think helps this group of people, here's what actually happens. It ends up way worse than it is. Oh, I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
And by me disagreeing with all the people that look empathetic by doing the wrong thing, well, that puts me out of it. So I don't care about what actually happens. I care about how it looks like I think, or how empathetic I appear. And then they get stuck in that trap where they hate you, and they could just say, well, he's not empathetic. That's not me.
I mean, look, if the left really cared about people that were downtrodden and stuff, they'd all be like, progressives. I mean, they'd all be capitalists that want to have strong property rights, because the engine that takes people out of poverty, that has shown over and over again, is free markets and property rights. Those things, if you give a population property rights and free markets, then you're going to see a massive increase in wealth, and you're going to see a huge amount of the population be pulled out of poverty. And then, I mean, in the United States, the only people that are in actual poverty are people that can't function in our society due to, mental illness or sometimes drug addiction. But it's a very, very, very small amount of people in the U.S. that are chronically poor. And whether you like him or not, Ben Shapiro's made this point a lot. There's really only three things you got to do: don't have a kid outside of marriage, keep a job for 10 years, and get married, and you'll probably not be in poverty. You won't be chronically in poverty. You may, people hit on hard times, people lose jobs and stuff, but if you do those things, you can get out of poverty and have a pretty good life in the United States.
Well, irrespective of the cause of the poverty, generally speaking, the free market principles and not the just give a handout is ultimately what will pull them out of it. It's like by putting them on the dole, by putting them on food stamps in perpetuity for life and not encouraging them to get a job or whatever, you're creating their environment for them to be trapped in that, as opposed to get them out of it. So we both want to help the poor person. This one will just actually create lasting change. This will actually trap them, but you'll get all the woke points in the now.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't care about what happens. They just care about how it looks right now.
The problem is, like, with all of this, is we're only talking about like what white liberals are advocating for. And you see this problem all around the world. This is actually like a good example is Malaysia, where you have the Malay population, which underperforms, the Chinese population overperforms. And the Malay population in Malaysia sets up these massive incentive networks, like from the government, through welfare, through food stamps to a degree, these sorts of things, because like you can never expect a group that underperforms for whatever reason you want to prescribe, like why they underperform. You can never expect them to not advocate for government subsidies. They're going to want to subsidize their existence to a degree. So the United States, like, part of the issue is, yes, white liberals advocate for these policies because they just perceive like it's going to help them, even though it's misguided and wrong. But like Black Americans, Hispanic Americans to a degree will advocate for these policies purely so they feel like they can keep up with the rest of the country. And so it's really, this is not a uniquely American problem. This occurs all over the world, is when there is a population in a country that underperforms, naturally they're going to advocate for policies that benefit that population, no matter their size. Like you see it in South Africa, where like Black Africans make up like 80% of the country, and they have completely reoriented the government to provide them with subsidies, provide them with welfare networks, because again, they're just trying to, in their eyes, keep up. And so obviously if they're underperforming, they're just going to advocate for policies that provide them with subsidies, provide them with welfare benefits and that sort of thing.
Yeah. All right, we're going to jump to this story here, and this is a little bit lighter fare. From the New York Post, Jared Kushner shows off renderings of futuristic Gaza with skyscrapers and suburbs. Mara Gaza, ladies and gentlemen, it is on the way. Jared Kushner unveiled an ambitious vision Thursday for a cosmopolitan Gaza Strip that will attract investment and tourists after years of war, looking much like his father-in-law, President Trump's call for converting the war-torn Mediterranean territory into a Riviera of the Middle East. Kushner, 45, showed off renderings of luxe beachfront skyscrapers and suburban subdivisions for the Palestinian territory's nearly 2 million people, many of whom are currently living in tents beneath rubble in the aftermath of a 2-year war that ended in October. I mean, you can look at these pictures, and I mean, it looks great if Israel doesn't bomb it. You know,
the Gaza 51st state. I
No.
brought this up 2 years ago.
no,
This is another example of Ian was right. So
No,
acknowledge
it's
I'm a
not.
prophet and that I will be your future president.
it's not. It's not going to be a 51st state.
It won't
It
be.
is not going to be a U.S. territory.
You think it'll be Israeli territory?
I assume so. Yeah, I assume so.
They're trying to set it up where there's going to be like a interim administration. They're claiming it'll be Palestinian led, and then eventually they do want to turn the governance of the territory back over to the PLO. And then this is the purpose of this Council of Board of Peace, things what they're calling it, is they're basically going to try and set up these international structures that will ensure the PLO doesn't just like they don't vote for Hamas again.
Well, I mean, the PLO, if it's the PLO, it might actually be something that's possible because,
Yeah.
you know, the people in Gaza voted for Hamas, and Hamas, you know, then they ended elections, and Hamas was like, all right, we are here to kill Jews, right? Like that's their whole existence. Whereas if you look at the way the West Bank works, like you don't have the same kind of violence from the West Bank. Now there are obviously there are clashes and there are problems. There are problems with the Israeli settlements and there's disagreements and fights about that. But it's not what Gaza was, right?
Yeah.
Like Gaza they had to close the borders with Gaza because Gaza was constantly firing rockets into Israel and stuff. So if you can get the PLO in there, the Palestinian Authority, not the PLO, is it the PLO?
the PLO.
Yeah, the PLO.
Palestinian Liberation.
Well, that was the
organization?
Palestinian. Well, no, it's the Palestinian Authority, right? Yeah. So if you can get the Palestinian Authority into Gaza and have them in charge, I think that it's possible. The new Rafah, they're talking about 100,000 plus permanent housing units, 200 plus education centers, cultural, religious, and vocational centers, and 75 medical facilities. New Gaza, which would be developed later, would be a hub of industry and employment, he said. In the beginning, we're toying with the idea of saying, let's build a free zone, and then we have a Hamas zone. And then we said, you know what? Let's just plan for catastrophic success, says Kushner, who alongside Special Envoy Steve Witkoff brokered an end to the war. Kushner also negotiated the Abraham Accords, establishing Israeli relations with 4 Arab countries during Trump's first term, and said the grandiose reconstruction vision may likewise seem impossible before it happens. Hamas signs a deal to demilitarize. That is what we are going to enforce. People ask us what our plan is, what our plan B is. We do not have a plan B, he said. We have a plan. We signed an agreement. We are all committed to making that agreement work. There's a master plan. We'll be doing it in phases. They've got demilitarization principles, the next 100 days. Do you think that this is something that's possible, Tate?
No.
No?
No, it's never going to happen. I mean, like, part of the issue.
I mean, Kushner's pretty good at this stuff.
Yeah, but the X factor is like the population. I mean, because that's the X factor. Not to like dunk on Gazans. Like, it's not my intention when I'm just saying this as a reality. Is the reason the West Bank is somewhat functional and Gaza is not is because there's literally, I think it's like a 15 to 20 point IQ difference between Palestinians in Gaza and Palestinians in the West Bank. Because the West Bank, like if you look, like Bethlehem, for example, like the birthplace of Christ. By law, they have to have a Christian mayor. Like the West Bank has a lot of these like actually fairly decent agreements with the local population. It's a much more stitched together, like formalized part of the world. And then Gaza is like a war zone, and it has been for the last 20, 30 years. I don't know how you get the population of Gaza out of that mentality. So that's kind of the question, and it wasn't addressed. And this is like, okay, well, what are you going to do with the Gazans? And what seems to be happening is with Somaliland being set up, obviously now they've been recognized by Israel, and they'll probably be in turn recognized by the United States and probably a few other Western nations. Is the plan is they're going to try and dump a lot of the Gazans there, because that's been the biggest issue from the Israeli perspective, is that they want to just push the Gazans out. The question is where, because these Arab states will not take them.
Nobody wants to take them. Every time you get a large population of the Palestinians, at least the Gazans, they try to take over the country. Right?
Well,
they tried to take over Kuwait.
Well,
they tried to take
yeah.
over. Jordan says we're not going to take them. Egypt, there was an uprising.
Well, and also to steelman the Arabs' position on why they don't want to take the Gazans is because they believe that the only leverage that they have in this entire conflict is the fact that Gazans are there. And so if you take the Gazans out, the Palestinians out of Gaza, then there's zero leverage left for the Arab states. Like Israel can just effectively annex it. So that's the primary reason. Like Egypt, for example, doesn't want to take them. Yes, there's like the political ramifications of taking them in. Like Lebanon is a great example. Lebanon used to be primarily Christian. It was like 70% Christian as an establishment. Actually, the French designated Lebanon to be like the Christian state in the Middle East. And then as soon as a lot of the Palestinian refugees flooded in, changed the demographics, and now Lebanon's, by all accounts, a disaster. But personally, I also agree. I think it's the primary reason these Arab states don't want to take the Gazans in is because they feel like once you take them in as refugees, they won't go back, and then Israel can basically do what they want in Gaza, and then that takes away any leverage that the Arab states would have in the Gaza situation.
So it's less that they don't want to take them; it's more about that they want them to stay there.
They want them to stay there. Yeah. Again, that's their position, and that's what I suspect. Also, I think that probably is their reasoning for it. I mean, Phil has a point, and that's a factor of it. They've seen what happened in Lebanon to a degree in Jordan. But
I know it's. Sorry to interrupt. Did you have a cap there? It's like they say history rhymes, and it's like they're taking these people and they want to repopulate them, but they won't take them because when they arrive, they start making banks and become lawyers. No, it's not that.
No, they're not making banks and lawyers.
Those
they're
are
trying
different
to
people
take
that do
over.
that.
They're trying to take over the country.
It's not the Gazans. It's the other populations that was ejected out of Germany because they would take over countries. They said. Crazy how it rhymes. Crazy.
They're not doing any favors to make anybody believe that this wasn't their intent all along. This is certainly not disproving or discouraging people from believing that. And it's like in the event that all of this was to happen, and the statement, where do we put the Gazans, is very funny. But it's like, who's going to make all the money from this? It's like, if they're investing all of this money to build all of these buildings, they're trying to extract as much value as possible out of there. And if there is so much money to be made, then could that have been the reason? Is that the reason? Does it look like that's the reason that's why they did all of this in the first place?
I don't even think it's so much as a monetary thing. I think it's just like it's a goal for Israel to not have to like deal with Gaza anymore.
To build a brand new city with skyscrapers and hundreds of thousands of homes.
Because it goes back to the question of like, okay, how do we get the Gazans out? Yeah. Again, that's the Israeli perspective. That's whatever. I mean, look, this could solve the Israel's problems, so to speak.
I mean, to Tate's point, like
this
you
could
said,
be their final solution.
Yeah, so to speak.
I know. Isn't it crazy?
No, it's
one solution.
It's not the same
it's
thing.
just a potential final solution.
It's removed from the historical context. It is a solution.
By the way, that's what Hitler said about the Jews. Was he was looking for a final solution of what to do with
and that's
those
a completely
people.
separate,
completely separate conversation.
But no, I mean,
actually is incredibly different.
But that's what's being set up in Somaliland. Is they finally found a partner that's in the region that would take the Gazans, and it is Somaliland.
And it's not just about Jewish people, Israelis, Gazans. Repopulation is an ancient thing that you do with a population when you conquered them. You oftentimes will just send them somewhere.
Well, a lot of times, historically, a lot of times they would just kill them all. Well, like in history, like when a conquering force comes in, a lot of times they would just kill all the men and boys, and then they would just take the women.
But that's why the post-war, that's why the post-war situation, the post-war consensus is interesting, because we don't really do that much anymore. You don't see, like, again, from like countries that are bought into the global system, you actually don't really see many like full-blown genocides anymore. What you do see is a lot of like resettlement, where, I mean, obviously Israel's killed quite a few people in Gaza, but like if they wanted to eliminate everyone there, they probably could. But like what you saw in Germany, for example, after the end of the war, they redrew the borders in Europe. They tried to clean things up. What happened was they cut Germany in half, and now like a third of Germany is now Poland. You have a lot of Germans there. What do you do with them? Do you try to integrate them into Poland? No, you deport all of them back to Germany. So you saw these massive population exchanges occurring in Europe after the war. So I think that's kind of the precedent. Again, it's not great. I mean, you don't want to see like people removed from where they live, but it's the reality. It's the world we live in. And so that's, I think, what's going on here is, I don't suspect, if this happened, which I just don't even think is going to happen anyway, because you got to get the Gulf states to play along, and the Gulf states are probably not going to. They can barely complete a lot of these mega projects in their own countries. But even hypothetically, if it goes exactly to plan, Gazans aren't going to live there. No. They can't really support a sort of a society that looks like this.
They would just take all of the resources there and do everything they could to make more missiles and
what's going to
happen
into
Israel.
I think we all know what's going to happen is the ceasefire is going to be violated by either Israel or Gaza. This is going to happen.
It's been violated.
It's been violated a few times already. And then this ceasefire that, again, Kushner's putting a lot of weight into it's not going to hold. It won't.
Wouldn't it be cool if Jared Kushner and all the people that were going to invest into this project and everybody talking about it. Wouldn't it be cool if they did that in like, I don't know, America? Like maybe Detroit or maybe literally anywhere. It's like if we don't barely manufacture anything here, wouldn't this be helpful for America?
Yeah.
Seems like that'd be kind of a good thing to do in America.
Yeah, because that's kind of the question is like who funds this? Again, if it's the Gulf states, that's great. But either way, like I actually don't think there's going to be much money extracted. I think everyone's going to like get their lunch eaten on this project because it's going to be really expensive. You're going to have to, again, you're gonna have to clean out all of the rubble.
Yeah.
You gotta demilitarize it. There's mines everywhere. There's a lot of weaponry. Like it's gonna be a very, very expensive project. And
why
like
would they
unless
do
the
it?
Saudis are, well, because like the Gulf states are, again, they're trying to form like a coalition against Iran. And so you have these Sunni Muslims looking at Israel and they're like, they could be a more viable partner because Israel's trying to position themselves as the regional power.
Yeah.
And so they just see like, okay, these Sunni states have the same enemy we do, which is Iran. And so that's what the incentive basically would be for these Gulf states is it's a geopolitical play. It's how they play ball with Israel and build that relationship.
Well, power translates into money. So in the event that this gives them the ability to have access to more power, then there's a lot of money to be made. So even whether or not they break even or whatever on this particular project, which I can't imagine that like real estate developers that have generated billions of dollars for themselves would just go into this thing not being able to make money.
Yeah.
Certainly there's a money play down the line somewhere. And I would wager that it's probably a ton of money. Not like maybe we'll break even. I bet they're going to make a ton of money from that.
They're certainly trying to buy influence. And like that's the way the world works outside of the West. The West is the only country that when they make these investments, they expect returns, where other countries, the way that they operate when they're building projects like this, specifically China, is they don't actually expect returns right away. They expect these to be geopolitical plays. Like, look, for example, with China's Belt and Road Initiative, where they built this massive deep water port in Sri Lanka. Again, they knew they were never going to make their money back on that. They knew that the Sri Lankan government was never actually going to be able to make payments on it. So what they did is they spent the money, they built the port as a like fantastic, massive deep sea, deep water port. Right? And then of course Sri Lanka falls behind on payments. They seize the port. You just bought influence. So it's like, okay, you lost some money, like from a pure like accounting perspective, but you just bought yourself a deep water port in the Indian Ocean. So it's like,
that's diplomats or heads of state making those decisions for the interest of that country. Jared is an independent citizen, with a bunch of investors that are also likely not states. They're people that are individuals that are willing to put up capital. And I mean, one of the most expensive parts of developing something like this would be the land itself. Yeah. And if you can just take it,
well,
you can steal beachfront property.
That's what it is.
It kind of kills a little bit of the cost structure down,
Yeah, because you have to look at like, and I'm not, like I don't really talk about Israel much just because it's not, most of my commentary is like American focused. But if you look at like the play here, who wins out of all of this? Israel benefits like dramatically. And so it's like, so it's like,
well, just getting the Gazans out, Israel. I mean, from Israel's perspective, if they can get the Gazans out, that's the win.
They,
whether or not, I mean, even if you just got the Gazans out and then paved all of the Gaza Strip and it was a parking lot, they would still benefit because they don't have to deal with the terrorism stuff.
Yeah, the whole reason like they haven't. I mean, some people will say Israel's just like a purely benevolent country, which I
but it's just
don't think it's the case. They're self-interested as every other country is, but like the Americans the Americans like do. I don't actually buy that Israel just like completely controls the United States because we do have a line. Like if they went in and like just leveled Gaza like to the ground, the Americans would probably say like chill a little bit. They have. I mean, we've seen it before where they deny Israel strikes, these sorts of things. Like we do operate autonomously at times.
But we're going to create this Gaza Strip mall. That's what we're going to make
Gaza Strip mall.
This is give them jobs, an opportunity. I've heard this before.
It's just funny how it says on the slideshow, it's like empowering Gazans.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The Gazans are never going to see that.
Okay. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, look, the Israelis pulled out of Gaza in 2005 or whatever. That was empowering Gaza. And then they had a bunch of terrorist attacks. And then October 7th happened. Israel has no incentive to actually empower Gazans because when the Gazans are empowered, it means Israelis die.
Yeah. That's the tragic. I'm not one of these people that like.
But yeah.
Yeah, like I've never been one of these people that like completely like pearl clutches over Gaza, but I will say it's like very unfortunate the situation Gazans are in because they're really just at the center of like a geopolitical struggle.
Yeah.
Nor Israel nor the Arab states are particularly concerned with the Gazans.
No, not at all.
They're really just kind of seen as like a chip to be played.
Yeah.
It's very
on both sides too.
That's what I mean. Yeah, Arab states and Israel both again view these people as
Sad, man.
playing sort of like a chip on a board.
All right, we're going to jump to this story, and I think Ian's going to really love this. From AZ Sports, 49ers investigate wild conspiracy theory that could be contributing to injuries. The San Francisco 49ers season is over, but this offseason will go slightly different than those in the past. Per ESPN's Nick Wagoner, the 49ers are investigating conspiracy theory that has really gained traction over the last couple of weeks. The team is investigating whether or not the electrical substation near the facility is contributing to the extreme rash of injuries over the years. Because it deals with allegedly the health and safety of our players, I think you have to look into everything, John Lynch told reporters in his end-of-the-year presser. We've been reaching out to anyone and everyone to see if a study exists other than a guy sticking an apparatus underneath the fence and coming up with a number that I have no idea what that means. That's what we know exists. So there's a substation, right? I'm looking for the picture here. Maybe it was in one of the other pieces on it. So the substation is right next to, here we go. The substation is right here, surrounded in red. And this is the 49ers facility. This is their practice field. And here's Levi Stadium. Allegedly, what's going on, what people think is the substation is causing a rash of injuries, and they spend 90, I guess it says where the 49ers players spend 90% of their work days. So you've got a bunch of injuries, and people are thinking that it might be the cause of the substation. Ian, what do you think?
I've been reading. I was basically taking a crash course through ChatGPT about what living near a substation would do to you. It says that there's 4 basic ways that it can affect you. One of them is EMF, electromagnetic fields, which are known to cause, it's like not really documented links of weakness, but headaches, dizziness, fatigue. Controlled blind studies fail to reproduce the effects, though, generally is what they say. So you've got electromagnetic fields that could potentially be doing it, stray voltage, grounding issues. So you might have electricity underground that's causing massive risk there. Muscle twitching, tingling. And I mean, muscle twitching for an athlete is like game breaking. Noise and vibration, underestimated but legitimate, it says, and environmental and land use factors, which would be like toxins and the poor air quality. But this, damn, electricity is so new in the human experiment at this time around that we know of. 150 years. Yeah, it's only a couple hundred years old in the last 100,000. I mean, maybe they had it before the flood, but we don't really know what kind of effect it's having on our bodies very much. And radiation now with like Wi-Fi and stuff. I wonder if it's part of why we're seeing auroras and the pole shifts is because of electricity. We have so much electricity. You can see it from space, the lights. It is a fascinating story. I just don't know.
I love a good conspiracy theory, and I would likely believe something like this if I had more time to dive into it. But I would almost wager that it's probably more likely the physical, these are the highest, most engineered athletes in the world. They're getting tested about every possible thing imaginable. They're doing feats of strength that many of us would never even be tested on ourselves in our entire life. And on top of that, they made the playoffs and excelled despite all that. So if you looked at those few guys, I would bet it's the physical therapy team and the doctors that are on the staff that are more likely responsible.
You think they're dropping the ball?
Well, maybe they're not indicating whether or not a person would be susceptible to injury that specific day. Like maybe their flexibility is not enough that day, and the doctor says, go ahead, you're still good to play. Whereas another doctor might say, if your ankle is tight and you can't bend to this degree, then it's a bad idea for you to play more than 10 minutes today or something like that. So I would bet it's the physical therapy team more likely than not. And I don't think that the San Francisco 49ers would outwardly admit that that was the case, because that would be admitting that they failed their own players.
With all the money that goes into, any NFL team, you'd think that they would be, if there was any substance to the idea, you'd think that they'd be aware of it,
Well, they are. That's so. There's the Washington Post article on that was on this subject, and if you read in it, they're saying they didn't say which players, but a lot of these players' agents have been reaching out to the team, been reaching out to the press about concerns specifically that the players are taking longer to recover from injuries than any of their other clients, which is pretty interesting. And if you look at like the map, obviously you have the substation there. I think it was on the third tab.
Let's see. Here we go.
The big red circle.
Yep.
So obviously, the circled in red is a substation, which people were like, that substation's been there since the 80s, and there wasn't injuries. Well, I think it was like 2004. They actually expanded it massively, and then that's when you started to see the 49ers have an outlier. They were outliers in terms of long-term injuries. And then also, if you look below the red circle, there's a lot of houses there. And it was also reported that the majority of players live in those houses.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. So they spend about 90% of the season in or around this substation. So I don't think it's like something to completely dismiss. And like what he was talking about, EMFs to a degree have been reported to like disrupt the nervous system, which again makes it more difficult to heal from injuries. So I don't think the question is, are these players suffering the injuries because of the substation? I think the question is, are their bodies able to recover quick enough, which could lead to
more injuries,
like massive injuries,
or a small injury getting
like you get like
compounded or
you get like a tweak in your Achilles. But then your body can't heal properly. That's what causes the traumatic Achilles injury, rather than the EMF specifically causing a traumatic injury.
The demand to play and to perform at the top level is like
because
nothing
that's what the
else.
agents said. The agents didn't say, "Oh my gosh, this substation is causing my client to tear his ACL." They were saying it's causing him to recover slower compared to their other clients.
Maybe we should protest at the substation. Maybe we should gather a bunch
Is there a
of
church
bunch of
around that we
guys.
can go in?
Yeah.
Run in there. Let's call up Don Lime and get in there.
Yeah.
Get some orange paint,
drove
bro,
by
and
it.
fine.
What's that?
I still get some orange paint, bro, and throw it everywhere. You know,
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
there you go.
Yeah, it's a good
Cleveland
point.
Browns fan. I was up in Tampa. I like saying non sequitur nonsense stuff sometimes if you didn't know.
Are you a Browns fan?
I do, yeah.
Dude, I'm so
I don't even know
sorry.
what you said, and I agreed with you.
Are you a
I said, are you a
Browns
Browns
fan?
fan?
I used to be when I lived in Ohio.
You're
and
from Ohio,
They
so-
suffered massive injuries constantly, and people never knew why. Tim Couch went down, Kellen Winslow Jr. went down, and it was like, are we cursed? I think it was the training staff, but maybe they were.
I think it was just
or
having to live in Cleveland also takes a toll on the body as well.
It's
Yeah.
sad. You think you're gonna lose. Yeah, it was
The mistake
terrible.
by the lake.
So I was up in Tampa a couple days ago, and I drove by a substation, and all I thought was could not imagine living next to that thing. That would be horrific to live near that thing. Like, what kind of damage is that doing to the surroundings? I thought those things. This was like 4 days ago.
The intensity on your face when you're talking about it, like I believe you.
It's just emanating invisible force. You're like, what is that doing to the environment?
Yeah,
we
I-
are the test experiment.
I was reading about it was it's Havana syndrome, where like back in the day, a lot of these diplomats were reporting that they were getting sick for like seemingly no reason, and they were pointing to EMFs there because again in the Washington Post article, a lot of the players, I don't know if it was the players or the agents reporting on behalf of the players anonymously, were saying also these guys are getting sick a lot more often, or they're feeling nauseous and these sorts of things, and that was the original speculation with the Havana gun, is that they were able to deploy some sort of weapon that would again like effectively blast EMF at you, and so these things are all like, it's worth digging into. I mean, the fact that the 49ers are taking it seriously indicates that this isn't just some like kookery.
Well, I mean, I think look, if you're the 49ers owner, and your players are taking longer to heal, I can't imagine that you would leave any stone unturned. The amount of money that goes into any NFL team, but the San Francisco 49ers, like they've got a pretty decent history. And I can't imagine that the owners would say, that's BS. I think they'd be like, go find out. You know? Because they have the funds to investigate it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of money to be lost if you lose Kittle right in the wild card game. Like you're losing a ton of money. So if there is any substance to, that's the other thing. It's like I don't know that the internet, as much as I love the internet and the collective power of it, would solve this faster than the people that have billions of dollars on the line.
I don't know.
Like
They
if
found Shia LaBeouf.
I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. You would think that they would be on top of that if they were ahead of the collective. I don't know.
Hope.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know if you guys still use phones to your head. I stopped.
I don't do
basically
that.
8 years ago. I was like, I used to carry it in my pocket.
I get angry at people that call me, text me. Like I don't want to be on the phone.
I used to keep it in my pocket, and then all of a sudden I started to get a dull pain in my left leg where I would keep the phone. I was like, oh, can't do that anymore. So I started putting it in like a backpack or in my back pocket. Now I have a fanny pack, which has an EMF shield in it built in.
Oh,
Got to protect the family jewels.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
right.
And I use headphones. I hate having this thing near my head. I don't know how far away it's supposed to be at night when you sleep, turned off. Sometimes I have it on like 6 feet away, but even then I feel like it's affecting me.
Someone just like there was an anon on Twitter. He just posted a video of ground beef cooking in a microwave, and then he was like, "This is what's happening to your brain when you're using AirPods." And then I got rid of my AirPods. I'm pretty easy to be persuaded on these things. Like I pretty much believe
me. That was my
if
video.
it appears on my timeline, I will take it at face value until
5-year-old
disproven.
was detained.
Like it's just the reality.
So did you fall for the "This is your brain on drugs" commercial when they scrambled the eggs and then, or when the girl smoked the weed and like melted?
He's
it?
25. He doesn't know any of that.
Oh dang!
No, but like I do remember the one commercial where it was
I'll
the
do it.
smoker lady, and she's like, and like the shower's running in the background, and she's like, I can't face the shower because of the hole in my throat, I would drown. And I remember that, and I switched to Zins. So.
Tracheotomy. Yeah, avoid that. Avoid obsessive smoking.
All right, we're gonna go to the super chats and Rumble rants right now. So smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know, tell all your friends. Make sure you become a member at rumble.com and join our Discord. If you're a member of the Discord, you can call in for our after show, which will start at 10 p.m. tonight. You can call in, ask the panel questions, give us your anecdotes and stuff. But right now, we're gonna go to your Rumble rants. Let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, bring those things up. I'm old, I can't see.
About tonight, I want to know.
There's a bunch of
Let's
ranters.
Is that good?
Yeah, bring it up a little bit. I'm an old
Is
guy.
that good? All right.
We want like a proper rant.
Yeah.
You know, none of this like, oh, you guys are
There
doing
we
great
go, there
work.
we
No,
go.
No, a real
like a anger,
So
vitriol.
Letamo says, Phil, fan of you. Matt Wash doppelganger works for Linus Tech Tips. His name is Dave, and he's a quite polite Canadian. Need to find a way to make Walsh see him.
Walsh was crashing out the other day because he was saying any guy with like a dark beard and glasses gets called his doppelganger.
I don't even have a dark beard. I mean, my eyebrows are blonde, man.
They said ginger cast.
I'm a blonde
earlier.
guy.
Yeah, well, you're not a ginger.
I'm definitely not
Someone
a ginger
did,
now.
did say that.
All right. Richard Slammer says, to Phil's point, you want to bring the enemy leaders in, or you want to bring the Tokyo Rose or Hanoi Jane, a.k.a. Don Lemon. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think that it would be a bad thing at all to wrap up Don Lemon. And that's not the point that I'm making. But I do think that if you're looking to have an impact on the ground, I think you get the actual activists and you wrap those people up, put them in jail for any laws that they violated, and you're going to have a much larger impact. Whereas if you get Don Lemon, it's going to be satisfying, but it's not going to have an effect on the protesters or organizing protests in the future. I was describing it like this, like Don Lemon is like the whipped cream on the sundae, right? The cherry on top. It's satisfying and great, but the actual wholesome meal that your body needs is the vegetables and the meat and potatoes. Like that's the good thing for you. The ice cream and stuff, it's nice and you like it, but it doesn't actually do anything for you. You know what I mean?
I like how you switched it up mid-metaphor and went from whipped cream and cherries to vegetables.
Well,
That's
I
the
mean,
way to go.
That's the thing, you know, the sugary, satisfying thing, or the thing that's actually going to, you know, help repair your body and give you the vitamins and nutrients that you need. So
The fact that you think of Don Lemon as a satisfying whipped cream treat is troubling.
You're putting words in my mouth, and now
You walked right into that.
I'm slightly offended.
He's a delicious treat.
That's not what I meant. That's gross.
Just a
And we're
cherry
moving
on top.
on. Jake Dave 93 says, been watching Tim since 2018, but here's my doomer worry. The FACE Act changes will fail because it's leftists. However, under Biden, FACE Act stuck old ladies in prison for abortion clinic sit-ins. I mean, that's true. But we work with the tools that we have, right? I mean, I love the idea of being like, hey, let's go and write new laws and actually, you know, do things that are going to be more permanent and really fix the problems that we have. But you go to war with the army that you have, not the army that you want. So the conditions in DC are as they are, and so you're limited by what your possibilities are limited. So you work with what you got. I mean, Tate, you might want to jump in on that.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's no fix everything button in the Trump. Like, there's not. I think John Doyle made the joke. There's not like a stream of staffers storming in at the fix everything button, and President Trump refuses to press it. It's like, unfortunately, the system that we live in was set up very well, in the sense of it's actually really insulated from like any sort of disarray. It's a very rigid system, and the left has done a really good job over the last 60, 70 years ensuring that is, or the rigidness is oriented towards the right, so it makes it really difficult for us to achieve our goals. So we're not at the point yet where we can just like effectively run the country like a dictator. Like, you have to remember, like, a lot of these Trump policies are popular on fairly razor thin margins. And then you have Congress. Like, Congress is going to be they're completely ineffective. Like, any win so far in the Trump administration, for the most part, has been through the executive branch. So it's just like, it's a very tricky situation the Trump administration is in. Like, they are a democratically elected government, and that, like, again, comes with stipulations. It comes with framework that you have to operate within. So to Phil's point, I mean, they've deemed that this is the most viable possible way to wrap these guys up. You got to work with what you have. Maybe this changes in the next few years. Zoomers, there was a U.S. Gov poll where half of Zoomers just said ignore the Supreme Court. So, you know, things could change quite rapidly. But as it stands right now, yeah, we have to operate within this. Because you got to remember, like, the Republican Party, the Trump administration is positioning themselves as a legitimate form of government, and they're positioning the left wing, the Democrat Party, as these radical insurgents. And that's the correct framing, I would say, because that's how you win elections going forward, because the American people just aren't ready for, like, a despot yet.
Yeah.
Constantly remember the rules for radicals, that the action you want is the reaction of your opponent. They want the Trump administration to break the laws. They want them to start going outside of bounds. Then they can rally the communists to say, hey, we told you they were dangerous fascists.
Yeah.
So don't.
And to Ian's point, that's why they constantly are basically lying to people. That's why they're telling you that ICE went after a 5-year-old kid. That's why they're telling you that Donald Trump broke all these laws. That's why they're telling you that ICE is actually breaking the law, because ICE isn't, and the government isn't breaking the law, because the people in the administration are aware. Like, I mean, you know, J.D. Vance has read rules for radicals. Like, the people that are in the administration, they're aware of this. And another thing that you have to think of is, like, half the FBI doesn't like Donald Trump. There's been an exodus of leftists and stuff, but there are a lot of people in the administration that still don't like Donald Trump. They don't like conservatives. They are progressives to the core. Oren was making this point the other night. This is the way the government has operated for, you know, God knows how long. I don't want to say a number because someone's going to jump in and say, no, you're wrong, it's been longer. But this is the way that the government has operated. So like I said earlier, you go to war with the army that you have, and you do the best that you can. I would love to be able to say, oh yeah, we got rid of all of the progressives in D.C. and now it's all staffed with patriots and you know, onward. We're just going to fix everything. But that's just not the case.
Yeah, the Trump administration has to consolidate power, and that does that does take time, because to Phil's point, I mean, you're operating within like a left-wing apparatus. And so it's just like, again, some of these drastic changes that we want to see happen aren't going to get done in the first year. And I'm not happy. I mean, I want to see like I want Barron to be like the American Caesar. I think that'd be awesome. But like, it takes time to consolidate power. It takes time to stockpile political capital.
It takes time for Barron to get to 35 to become the president.
Well, yeah, we'll work around that, I think.
Shane H. Wilder says, if you're the praying type, pray for us at the March for Life in D.C. tomorrow, and for anyone who will be affected by this weekend storms. This weekend storm is looking like it's going to be no joke. So if you're a prayer, you know, pray for everybody at the March for Life. That's a very wonderful way to protest and demonstrate. Abortion is, in my opinion, abortion's, you know, probably one of the most wrong things that we do here in the U.S. I haven't always thought that, but I've, you know, since I had a kid, I mean, look, man, when your kid's 6 months in utero and you're looking at an MRI or a sonogram and you can see a face, you're like, that is a human being, man. There is no question about it. So
yeah, no, shout out to all the patriots heading to the March for Life. It's like literally one of the most beautiful things that occurs in this country, and it happens annually. I regret that I won't be there this year. I'm stuck here in Florida, which is a good thing. It's a blessing to be down here, but yeah, you know, bring some jackets, dude. It's gonna be freezing. So
you guys will have a good time.
Have you been in the past?
Yeah, I've been before.
It's pretty crazy. This is going to be really cold this year, though.
Bring some jackets, and on the way home, if you can find a shovel, buy it, because you're going to need it on Saturday and Sunday if you're in the area. It's going to get really weird. I've seen some forecasts looking at like 18 inches.
It's going to be freezing, and also remember, you guys know this, everyone that's going is optics minded. We're all patriots, but there's going to be people trying to antagonize you.
Definitely.
Don't they're losers. Like, just ignore them. It's fine.
On the
March for Life. There's so many numbers there. Like, don't even let anything spoil it.
You can even look them in the eyes and think the words healthy, and then blink slowly like you do with a cat.
As long as you're not near a substation, it should work.
If you're the praying type, pray for them.
If you ever have an enemy or someone you're afraid of, look at them in the eyes and think words at them, and it's like magic.
So true. So true.
All right. Bespoke 2147 says, no, Phil, we don't want people not of our cultural heritage here anymore. No giving them money for legal way. No more legal way for people who abused our generosity for decades. Look, I'm not sure what you think my perspective is on immigration. I'm the guy that says that we should shut down immigration for a decade and deport all illegals, right? So I'm not sure where you got the idea that I had some kind of like soft spot for illegal aliens here in the United States. I don't. But I do think that whatever means we use or whatever way we can offer to get people to leave, I think it's a good thing, especially when you're dealing with, you know, the amount of money that they're talking about. $2,600 is a small amount of money to get, you know, to the federal government, who just prints it anyways, and they're going to print it for other stuff anyway. So it's a small amount of money to get people to leave. In my opinion, whether it be $2,600 or trebuchet, it's all good if you're decreasing the number of illegal aliens in the United States. So.
Yeah, like remember they've quantified that number because they've determined that an ICE operation costs far more than that. So it's like you kind of look at it like, okay, to a degree, what you're trying to do is you're trying to reorient the incentive structure around immigration. So you want to reorient the atmosphere around immigration in the America to it being favorable for these people to leave. And if you can incentivize that, it's worthwhile because again, it saves us money for having to like knock down doors and these sorts of things.
And trebuchets, I'm sure that if the government made trebuchets, they would be extremely expensive. Dave Brick says, if we're not getting a Tate Brown holding it down t-shirt or something, what are we even doing here? Tate,
that's so true. Why? Yeah, what's going on?
You should be petitioning the powers that be every day.
I may have to subvert and go around and just sell my own t-shirt. It would be a very plain. It would literally just be a white t-shirt with black text on it.
We can have like a really special shirt or something like that.
No, it's got to be you doing this.
Yeah,
and in between your hands it says Tate Brown.
Yeah,
like,
someone was
like a silhouette of your head with your hair.
It could be.
I mean,
it's like,
no, it's got to be the hands.
Someone was wasp checking me the other day. They were saying there's no way you're of British extraction because you use your hands like an Italian.
You're not.
And what I realized what it is, the reason I talk the way I do, the way I have like these hand expressions, is literally because of Donald Trump.
It's watching him like growing
because
up
like
and stuff?
because I was 14 when he came down the escalator, and I've noticed most other right-wing Zoomer guys that are my age all sort of conduct themselves the same way.
Fuentes does. Nick
Fuentes,
does it too.
Doyle, like all these guys, they do that because we grew up like borderline idolizing Donald Trump, and so we wanted to be like him. We wanted to be cool, and so we started doing that. I don't do that though. That's like I haven't even seen many Zoomers do that. That's like a Trump special. That's just not a natural. But like this, so by consequence, by my hand gestures, by the way I move, I sort of emulate like a 70-year-old Italian guy.
I'm going to point out that
I
am the waspiest guy here, by the way. So just want to take that little victory there.
Je m'appelle Phil Labonte.
I was once you says, in keeping with Timcast tradition, here we go. I am in the hospital waiting the birth of my firstborn daughter. Congratulations. That's what we like to hear.
Babies.
Welcome to the world, little patriot.
Yep.
I've said it to so many babies, but it's so true. Is we're out of time. Like, don't even bother walking. Just as soon as you can talk, let's go. It's go time.
Let's go.
Get a Twitter account.
Get them.
Let's go.
Start posting. Just get under every Democrat politician. Try to ratio them. I know you probably won't be able to spell for a while, so string together a few like letters, and we get the idea. We'll retweet it. You can teach them how to dump it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT can
get an iPad in front of them as soon as humanly possible.
It's like the least conservative thing in the advice I've ever heard.
The only app installed should be X with tight filters, very limited filters that are only showing the Democrat politicians in the reply option.
Excuse me, Rumble.
And Rumble, of course.
It should be Rumble and Truth Social.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, find me in the comments on Lindsey Graham's X account. I'm there. I live there.
Let's go.
And Shreet Thanadar. I'm also in his comments.
Let's go.
Patriot.
Thinker for a Life says, in deep rural Michigan in 2020, I received a mail-in ballot from Detroit. We should make aliases on the Democrat website to get one of your own. The Dems just know what to do with that extra vote. I mean, look,
Before we
don't
get
do
going,
that.
let's
That
we're
would
not
be illegal,
We're
from what I
absolutely
understand?
not encouraging people to
push
commit
it a little
crimes.
further. Yeah, don't do that.
You definitely do not want to do whatever you should do to gum up the Democrat system. That would be terrible. Do not do that. We definitely are not advocating for that. Certainly, do not do whatever it takes to derail the Democrat apparatus. Totally
Disavow.
We are disavowing. There's not an ounce of sarcasm in my voice whatsoever.
The proper thing to do is to call your senator and tell him to pass the SAVE Act. Get these BS ways of voting fixed. Make sure that you have voter ID, so that way people are sure that the people voting are actually who they are. No more mailing ballots out and then going and harvesting them, because you never know who actually filled out the ballot. The way to make sure that the way to game the system is to not actually game the system. It's to fix the system so that way it's not gamed any longer.
Did Trump make the voting day a holiday yet? Has he done that yet?
I don't think so.
He's going to, but he's going to wait, and he's going to do it the year before. He should have done it before this year, because this is when the midterms. This year, those midterms were this year.
Yeah.
2026.
Should have already done that. But I like that he did it for Christmas and New Year.
They'll probably say that that's racist because they're keeping people from going and making money that day or whatever. Like, they'll find a way to spin that on them.
I feel like we should make it should be as inconvenient as possible to vote. Like, the only people that should be voting are the people that really want to.
There you go.
That's where going there really does require effort.
Yeah.
And even me, I'm like, it's going to take me 10 minutes. Even if it's 10 minutes, it's going to take me 10 minutes plus 10 minutes plus 10 minutes. And I have to dedicate some time to it. I have to take off work, or I have to dedicate my time. And if that's the difference between you doing it and not, then you really shouldn't be voting.
Yeah, totally. I had a buddy who, he was really into civics. He got really into CGP Grey videos, which, if you know those types of people, you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know.
And what happened was he would put on his Facebook, I think it was his Facebook or Instagram, if you are not planning on voting today, I will pick you up at your house and drive you to the voting booth. And I texted him and I was like, if someone literally, the things, like you said, the thing standing between them voting or not is someone else driving them to the polls, they shouldn't be voting, because clearly they do not care about the outcome of the election whatsoever. So let's just not do that, because we don't want low propensity voters, but that's not a good thing. We should have people that are engaged and tapped in voting exclusively.
Yeah, the mail is the most outrageous thing ever, because you'd be willing to do that as a favor to a buddy if they were just like, hey man, would you just fill this out and I'll send it for you. Oh yeah, you don't even know what it even is, and if you don't care, that is troubling.
That's why they're gonna push for voting apps. You should be able to vote through an app. And there was people that were on the right that were advocating for this for a while. I'm like, that will get the Republicans will get blown out if we do app based voting.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So there has to be some kind of commitment involved.
Maybe he won't make it a holiday then. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah, I actually don't think you should.
No.
Yeah, I think it should be as inconvenient as possible.
LG Bales says, when are the asylums that Trump promised going to open up? There are a bunch of people that need grippy sock vacations. Also, can we start pushing these politicians spreading fake news propaganda? Can we start punishing these politicians spreading fake news propaganda? You probably can't punish the politicians pushing fake news propaganda. And as for the asylums, look, historically, asylums have been state-run. So just because Donald Trump says we're going to do this doesn't mean that it's going to happen.
Reopen the rubber ramadas.
Yeah. Look, I personally think that there should be laws that allow people to be committed involuntarily if they're a danger to society or to themselves. It's too easy for the mentally ill to roam the streets and terrorize people. You go to any big city and you see that. There's been plenty of high-profile murders and attacks because of mentally ill people, and I think that getting those people off the street would be great for society, but I don't think that it's going to end up being a federal thing.
And it's crazy because there's laws on the book, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's New York City has laws where if you've slept on the street for a certain amount of continuous days, the police can just commit you. They could pick you up and commit you. But these things are just rarely enforced. They're deep in these city codes. But that's just common sense. If someone's still on the street after a few days, that indicates that something's wrong. Because typically the average stint for a homeless person is only a day or two. These are people that are hardened, they're grizzled, they're ready for the street, and it's helpful for them. We don't want to enable that behavior. It's bad for them. We want these people to get help. So
yeah,
it's the most benevolent thing you can do.
As far as the punishing the politicians that post fake news, I would say that a more fruitful use of your time would be to call out your own politicians that represent you and advocate for the policies that are the reason why you elected them in the first place, and spend more of your time focusing on them, because I feel like there's so many of them on the right that don't do the things that we put them in there for, or don't talk about the things that are important to us. And it's like, they need us. The left doesn't need us at all. You could yell at Gavin Newsom or whoever else a million times, but you don't matter to them. Whereas, like, in order for a Lindsey Graham or a Thomas Massey or a Ted Cruz or whoever it is, the only one I like out of that three is Thomas Massey. But in order for them to get reelected, you need to be talking to them about the things that matter, so that they understand that this is something that they need to do in order to get your vote again. So I just think that's a more productive use of your time.
That's true, yeah.
Rusty Man 3625 says, Phil, life is stressful for me for right now, but looking forward to your concert in May is something that keeps me going. I love to hear it. Thank you very much. You're a patriot and a scholar. All That Remains is going to be on tour from April 29th until May 23rd. We're going out with Born of Osiris and Dead Eyes. So go to allthatremainsonline.com to get your tickets. That's a little early plug. Daewoo Lau says, greetings from Australia. Working warranty and being able to listen to you guys makes my day a lot less dreary. That's great. Isn't it summertime down there, though? Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine Australia being dreary in the summertime.
Is it because you got a king? Shout out. You're a free man. Freedom. I would scream it if I was outside right now, but we're on a microphone.
You are so focused on that.
I'm going to scream it.
No.
Freedom!
So
I
true.
Too loud, though.
That's great.
Because I'm
That
tired.
was William Wallace moment.
I did it from
right?
here. Let me do it again.
Do it again. From the top.
Freedom! Freedom! Nice one.
Yeah. Phil,
Thanks.
come on, guys. Panel.
I'm okay.
No.
Yeah.
Serge, give us a freedom. Come on. It's Thursday. It's Freedom Thursday.
All episode.
It's Freedom Thursday.
You did it really great. I thought you
All right.
Wait, let's get avant-garde. Jerry Seinfeld yelling
Freedom?
freedom.
Freedom!
Freedom! For who?
All right.
For everyone!
Smash the like button. Share the show with your friends. Share the show with everyone you know. Thank you very much for coming. Why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you?
I'm Bobby Sauce. You can follow me on any social media at Take Naps, or go to followbobby.com.
I really like that name, dude. I know it's always awkward coming over to me at the end. Hey, follow me at Ian Crossland. Take Naps is what I'm talking about. Take Naps
yes.
is a great code. At Ian Crossland, hit me up on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram is where you'll find me. And check out graphene.movie. Check out the trailer for this new movie I'm producing. It's going to be really, really interesting. The trailer's up. Sign up for the mailing list at graphene.movie, and I'll see you there.
X and Instagram at Real Tate Brown. Make sure you're following me on X. I've been receiving reports from loyal patriots. They didn't even realize they weren't following me. This is happening a lot. It's alarming. So make sure you go to my Twitter right now, my X, and make sure you're following. It's a huge epidemic. I don't know what's going on. I think there's some foreign powers involved, if you ask me. So we'll investigate that. We'll maybe some sort of like Senate committee will get onto this of why people aren't following. Go check it out. Phil?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twix. I am Phil That Remains. The band is All That Remains. You can check out All That Remains on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, and Deezer. Stick around for the Rumble after show. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime.